Ars Amatoria, or The Art of Love, by Ovid, literally translated into English prose, with copious notes, by Henry T. Riley. 1885. Book the first. Should any one of the people not know the art of loving, let him read me, and taught by me on reading my lines, let him love. By art the ships are onward sped by sails and oars, by art are the light chariots, by art is love to be guided. In the chariot and in the flowing reins was Ovid unskilled, in the Haemonian ship of Jason Tiphys was the pilot. Me, too, skilled in my craft, has Venus made the guardian of love. Of Cupid the Tiphys and the Automedon shall I be styled. Unruly indeed he is, and one who oft rebels against me, but he is a child, his age is tender and easy to be governed. The son of Philyra made the boy Achilles skilled at the lyre, and with his soothing art he subdued his ferocious disposition. He who so oft alarmed his own companions, so oft the foe, is believed to have stood in dread of an aged man full of years. Those hands which Hector was doomed to feel, at the request of his master, he held out for stripes as commanded. Chiron was the preceptor of the grandson of Aeacus, eye of love. Both of the boys were wild, both of a goddess born. But yet the neck of even the bull is laden with the plough, and the reins are champed by the teeth of the spirited steed. To me, too, will love yield, though with his bow he should wound my breast, and should brandish his torches hurled against me. The more that love has pierced me, the more has he relentlessly inflamed me, so much the fitter avenger shall I be of the wounds so made. Phoebus, I pretend not that these arts were bestowed on me by thee, nor by the notes of the birds of the air am I inspired. Neither Clio nor the sisters of Clio have been beheld by me, while watching, ascrat in thy vales my flocks. To this work experience gives rise, listen to a poet well versed. The truth will I sing, mother of love, favor my design, be ye afar, ye with the thin falace on your hair, the mark of chastity, and thou, long flounce, which dost conceal the middle of the foot. We will sing of guiltless delights, and of thefts aloud, and in my song there shall be naught that is criminal. In the first place, endeavor to find out an object which you may desire to love, you who are now coming for the first time to engage as a soldier in a new service. The next task after that is to prevail on the fair by pleasing her. The third is, for her love to prove of long duration. This is my plan, this space shall be marked out by my chariot, this the turning place to be grazed by my wheels in their full career. While you may, and while you are able to proceed with flowing reins, choose one to whom you may say, you alone are pleasing to me. She will not come to you gliding through the yielding air, the fair one that suits must be sought with your eyes. The hunter knows full well where to extend the toils for the deer, full well he knows in what vale dwells the boar gnashing with his teeth. The shrubberies are known to the fowlers. He who holds out the hooks knows what waters are swam in by many a fish. You, too, who seek a subject for enduring love, first learn in what spot the fair are to be met with. In your search, I will not bid you give your sails to the wind, nor is a long path to be trodden by you, that you may find her. Let Perseus bear away his Andromeda from the tawny Indians, and let the Grecian fair be ravished by Paris, the Phrygian hero. Rome will present you damsels as many and full as fair, so that you will declare that whatever has been on the earth, she possesses. As many ears of corn as Gargara has, as many clusters as Methymna, as many fishes as are concealed in the seas, birds in the boughs, as many stars as heaven has, so many fair ones does your own Rome contain, and in her own city does the mother of Aeneas hold her reign. Are you charmed by early and still dawning years, the maiden in all her genuineness will come before your eyes. Or do you wish a riper fair, 1,000 riper will please you, you will be forced not to know which is your own choice. Or does an age mature and more staid delight you? This throng too, believe me, will be even greater. Do you only saunter at your leisure in the shade of Pompey's portico, when the sun approaches the back of the Lion of Hercules, or where the mother has added her own gifts to those of her son, a work rich in its foreign marble? And let not the portico of Livia be shunned by you, which, here and there adorned with ancient paintings, bears the name of its founder. Where, too, are the granddaughters of Belus, who dared to plot death for their wretched cousins, and where their enraged father stands with his drawn sword. Nor let Adonis, bewailed by Venus, escape you, and the 7th holy day observed by the Jew of Syria. Nor fly from the Memphian temples of Isis the linen-wearing heifer, she has made many a woman that which she was herself to Jove. Even the courts, who would have believed it, are favorable to love, and oft in the noisy forum has the flame been found. where the erection of a pious adjoining the temple of Venus, built of marble, beats the air with its shooting stream. In that spot full oft is the pleader seized by love, and he that has defended others, the same does not defend himself. Oft in that spot are there words found wanting to the eloquent man, and new cares arise, and his own cause has to be pleaded. From her temple, which is adjoining, Venus laughs at him. He who so lately was a patron, now wishes to become a client. But especially at the curving theaters do you hunt for prey. These places are even yet more fruitful for your desires. There you will find what you may love, what you may trifle with, both what you may once touch, and what you may wish to keep. As the numberless ants come and go in lengthened train, when they are carrying their wonted food in the mouth that bears the grains, or as the bees, when they have found both their own pastures and the balmy meads, hover around the flowers and the tops of the thyme, so rush the best-dressed women to the thronged spectacles, a multitude that oft has kept my judgment in suspense. They come to see, they come that they themselves may be seen. To modest chastity these spots are detrimental. Romulus, 'twas thou didst first institute the exciting games, at the time when the ravished Sabine fair came to the aid of the solitary men. Then, neither did curtains hang over the marble theatre, nor was the stage blushing with liquid saffron. There, the branches were simply arranged which the woody palladium bore. The scene was void of art. On the steps made of turf sit the people, the branches promiscuously overshadowing their shaggy locks. They look about them, and they mark with their eyes, each for himself, the damsel which to choose, and in their silent minds they devise full many a plan. And while, as the Etrurian piper sends forth his harsh notes, the actor with his foot thrice beats the levelled ground, in the midst of the applause, in those days applause was void of guile, the king gives to his people the signal to be awaited for the spoil. At once they start up, and disclosing their intentions with a shout, lay their greedy hands upon the maidens. As the doves, a startled throng, fly from the eagles, and as the young iamb flies from the wolves when seen, in such manner do they dread the men indiscriminately rushing on, the complexion remains in none which existed there before. For their fear is the same, the symptoms of their fear not the same. Some tear their hair, some sit without consciousness, one is silent in her grief, another vainly calls upon her mother, this one laments, this one is astounded, this one tarries, that one takes to flight. The ravished fair ones are carried off, a matrimonial spoil, and shame itself may have been becoming to many a one. If one struggled excessively and repelled her companion, borne off, the man himself lifted her into his eager bosom. And thus he spoke, "Why spoil your charming eyes with tears? What to your mother your father was, the same will I be to you. Romulus, 'twas thou alone didst understand how to give rewards to thy soldiers. Give such a reward to me, and I will be a soldier." In good truth, from that transaction, the festive theatres, even to this day, continue to be treacherous to the handsome. And let not the contest of the noble steeds escape you, the roomy circus of the people has many advantages. There is no need there of fingers with which to talk over your secrets, nor must a hint be taken by you through nods. Be seated next to your mistress, there being no one to prevent it. Press your side to her side as close as ever you can, and conveniently enough, because the partition compels you to sit close, even if she be unwilling, and because, by the custom of the place, the fair one must be touched by you. Here let the occasion be sought by you for some friendly chat, and let the usual subjects lead to the first words. Take care and inquire with an air of anxiety, whose horses those are, coming, and without delay, whoever it is to whom she wishes well, to him do you also wish well. But when the thronged procession shall walk with the holy statues of ivory, do you applaud your mistress Venus with zealous hand. And as often happens, if perchance a little dust should fall on the bosom of the fair, it must be brushed off with your fingers, and if there should be no dust, still brush off that none. Let any excuse be a prelude to your attentions. If her mantle, hanging too low, shall be trailing on the earth, gather it up, and carefully raise it from the dirty ground. At once, as the reward of your attention, the fair permitting it, her ankles will chance to be seen by your eyes. Look too behind, who shall be sitting behind you, that he may not press her tender back with his knee against it. Trifles attract trifling minds. It has proved to the advantage of many a one to make a cushion with his ready hand. It has been of use, too, to waft a breeze with the graceful fan, and to place the hollow footstool beneath her delicate feet. Both the circus, and the sand spread for its sad duties in the bustling forum, will afford these overtures to a dawning passion. On that sand oft has the son of Venus fought, and he who has come to be a spectator of wounds, himself receives a wound. While he is talking and is touching her hand and is asking for the racing list, and having deposited the stake, is inquiring which has conquered, wounded, he sighs and feels the flying dart, and himself becomes a portion of the spectacle so viewed. Besides, when of late Caesar, on the representation of a rival fight, introduced the Persian and Athenian ships, in truth from both seas came youths, from both came the fair, and in the city was the whole of the great world. Who in that throng did not find an object for him to love? How many, alas, did a foreign flame torment? See, Caesar prepares to add what was wanting to the world subdued. Now, remote east, our own shalt thou be. Parthian, thou shalt give satisfaction, entombed Crassy, rejoice. Ye standards, too, that disgracefully submitted to barbarian hands. Your avenger is at hand and proves himself a general in his earliest years, and while a boy is conducting a war not fitted to be waged by a boy. Cease, in your fears, to count the birthdays of the gods. Valor is the lot of the Caesars, in advance of their years. The divine genius rises more rapidly than its years, and brooks not the evils of slow delay. The Terinthian hero was a baby, and he crushed 2 serpents in his hands. Even in his cradle he was already worthy of Jove. Bacchus, who even now art a boy, how mighty wast thou then, when conquered India dreaded thy theosy? With the auspices and the courage of thy sire thou, youth, shalt wield arms, and with the courage and the auspices of thy sire shalt thou conquer. Such first lessons are thy due, under a name so great, now the first of the youths, at a future day to be the first of the men. Since thou hast brothers, avenge thy brethren slain, and since thou hast a sire, vindicate the rights of thy sire. He, the father of thy country and thine own, hath put thee in arms, the enemy is tearing realms away from thy reluctant sire. Thou wilt wield the weapons of duty, the foe arrows accursed, before thy standard, justice and duty will take their post. By the badness of their cause the Parthians are conquered, in arms too may they be overcome, may my hero add to Latium the wealth of the East. Both thou, Father Mars, and thou, Father Caesar, grant your divine favor as he sets out, for the one of you is now a deity, thou the other wilt so be. What Parthian dost thou leave to the conquered, who dost fly that thou mayst overcome? Parthian, even now has thy mode of warfare an unhappy omen. And will that day then come on which thou, the most graceful of all objects, glittering with gold, shalt go, drawn by the 4 snow-white steeds? Before thee shall walk the chiefs, their necks laden with chains, that they may no longer, as formerly, be secure in flight. The joyous youths and the mingled fair shall be looking on, and that day shall gladden the minds of all. And when some one of the fair shall inquire the names of the monarchs, what places, what mountains, or what rivers are borne in the procession, answer to it all, and not only if she shall make any inquiry, even what you know not, relate, as though known perfectly well. This is the Euphrates, with his forehead encircled with reeds, the one whose azure hair is streaming down will be the Tigris. Make these to be the Armenians. This is Persia, sprung from Danae, that was a city in the vales of Achaemenes. This one or that will be the leaders, and there will be names for you to call them by. Correctly, if you can, if not, still by such as suggest themselves. Banquets, too, with the tables arranged, afford an introduction. There is something there besides wine for you to look for. Full oft does blushing Cupid, with his delicate arms, press the soothed horns of Bacchus there present. And when the wine has besprinkled the soaking wings of Cupid, there he remains and stands overpowered on the spot of his capture. He, indeed, quickly flaps his moistened wings, but still it is fatal for the breast to be sprinkled by love. Wine composes to choose an object for you to love, where to lay your nets. Now, I attempt to teach you, by what arts she must be captured who has pleased you, a work of especial skill. Ye men, whoever you are, and in every spot, give attention eager to be informed, and give, all people, a favorable ear to the realization of my promises. First of all, let a confidence enter your mind that all women may be won. You will win them, do you only lay your toils. Sooner would the birds be silent in spring, the grasshoppers in summer, sooner would the Maenalian dog turn its back upon the hare, than the fair, attentively courted, would resist the youth. She, however, will wish you to believe, so far as you can, that she is reluctant. Lo, I utter a prophecy, thou wilt conquer, and I shall offer the lines which I have vowed, and with a loud voice wilt thou have to be celebrated by me. Thou wilt there he taking thy stand, and in my words thou wilt be animating thy troops. Oh, that my words may not prove unworthy of thy spirit. I will celebrate both the backs of the Parthians as they fly, and the valor of the Romans, and the darts and the feelings, and makes them ready to be inflamed. care flies, and is drenched with plenteous wine. Then come smiles, then the poor man resumes his confidence, then grief and cares, and the wrinkles of the forehead depart. Then candor, most uncommon in our age, reveals the feelings, the god expelling all guile. On such occasions, full oft have the fair captivated the hearts of the youths, and Venus amid wine has proved flames in flame. Here do not you trust too much to the deceiving lamp. Both night and wine are unsuited to a judgment upon beauty. In daylight and under a clear sky did Paris view the goddesses when he said to Venus, "Thou, Venus, dost excel them both. By night, blemishes are concealed, and pardon is granted to every imperfection, and that hour renders every woman beauteous. Consult the daylight about jewels, about wool steeped in purple, consult the daylight about the figure and the proportion. Why enumerate the resorts of fair ones suited for your search? The sands would yield to my number. Why mention Baiae, and the shores covered with sails, and the waters which send forth the smoke from the warm sulphur? Many a one carrying thence a wound in his breast has exclaimed, this water was not so wholesome as it was said to be. See, too, the temple in the grove of suburban Diana, and the realms acquired with the sword by hostile hand. Because she is a virgin, because she hates the darts of Cupid, she has given many a wound to the public, and will give many still. Thus far, Thalia borne upon unequal wheels, teaches where the foeman hurls from his flying steed. A stealthy courtship is pleasing to the man, so, too, is it to the fair. The man but unsuccessfully conceals his passion, with more concealment does she desire. Were it agreed among the males not to be the first to entreat any female, the conquered fair would soon act the part of the suppliant. In the balmy meads, the female lows after the bull, the female is always neighing after the horny-hoofed horse. Passion in us is more enduring, and not so violent. Among men the flame has reasonable bounds. Why mention Byblis, who burned with a forbidden passion for her brother, and who resolutely atoned with the halter for her crimes? Mirha loved her father, but not as a daughter ought, and she now lies hid, overwhelmed by the bark that grew over her. With her tears, too, which she distills from the odoriferous tree, are we perfumed, and the drops still retain the name of their mistress. By chance, in the shady vales of the woody Ida, there was a white hull, the glory of the herd, marked with a little black in the middle between his horns. There was but one spot, the rest was of the complexion of milk. The heifers of Knossos and of Sidon sighed to mate with him. Pasiphae delighted to become the paramour of the bull. In her jealousy she hated the beauteous cows. I sing of facts well known. Crete, which contains its 100 cities, untruthful as it is, cannot gainsay them. She herself is said to have cut down fresh leaves, and the tenderest grass with hand unused to such employment. She goes as the companion of the herds, so going, no regard for her husband restrains her, and by a bull is Minos conquered. Of what use, Pasiphae, is it to put on those costly garments? This love of thine understands nothing about wealth. What hast thou to do with a mirror, when accompanying the herds of the mountain? Why, foolish one, art thou so often arranging thy smoothed locks? Still, do thou believe that mirror, that denies that thou art a heifer. How much couldst thou wish for horns to spring up upon thy forehead? If Minos still pleases thee, let no paramour be sought, but if thou wouldst rather deceive thy husband, deceive him through a being that is human. Her chamber abandoned, the queen is borne over the groves and the forests, just as a bacchanal impelled by the Ionian god. Alas, how oft with jealous look does she eye a cow, and say, why is she thus pleasing to my love? See how she skips before him on the tender grass. I make no doubt that the fool thinks that it is becoming to her. Thus she spoke, and at once ordered her to be withdrawn from the vast herd, and in her innocence to be dragged beneath the bending yoke, or else she forced her to fall before the altars, and rites feigned for the purpose, and with joyous hand she held the entrails of her rival. How often did she propitiate the deities with her slain rivals, and say, as she held the entrails, now go and charm my love. And sometimes she begged that she might become Europa, sometimes Io, because the one was a cow, the other born upon a bull. Still, deceived by a cow made of maple wood, the leader of the herd impregnated her, and by the offspring was the sire betrayed. If the Cretan dame had withheld from love for Thyestes, alas, how hard it is for a woman possibly to be pleasing to one man only. Phoebus would not have interrupted his career in the midst, and his chariot turned back, retreated with his returning steeds to the morn. The daughter, who spoiled Nissus of his purple locks, presses beneath her thigh and groin the raving dogs. the son of Atreus, who escaped from Mars by land and Neptune on the waves, was the mournful victim of his wife. By whom have not been lamented the flames of the Ephorian Crusa? Medea, the parent, too, stained with the blood of her children, Phoenix, the son of Amintor, wept with his blinded eyes. You, startled steeds, tore Hippolytus in pieces. Why, Phineus, dost thou tear out the eyes of thy guiltless sons? That punishment will revert to thy own head. All these things have been caused by the passion of females. It is more violent than ours and has more frenzy in it. Come then, and doubt not that you can conquer all the fair. Out of so many, there will be hardly one to deny you. What they yield and what they refuse, still are they glad to be asked for. Even if you are deceived, your repulse is without danger. But why should you be deceived, since new pleasures are delightful, and since what is strange attracts the feelings more than what is one's own? The crop of corn is always more fertile in the fields of other people, and the herds of our neighbors have their udders more distended. But first, be it your care to make acquaintance with the handmaid of the fair one to be courted. She can render your access easy. Take care that she is deep in the secrets of her mistress, and not too little entrusted with her secret frolics. Her do you bribe with promises, her with entreaties. You will obtain what you ask with little trouble, if she shall be willing. Let her choose the time, physicians, even, watch their time, when the feelings of her mistress are pliant and easy to be influenced. Then will her feelings be easily influenced, when in the best humor in the world she shall be smiling, just as the corn on the rich soil. While hearts are joyous and not closed by sadness, then are they assailable. Then with soothing arts does Venus steal on apace. At the time when Troy was in sorrow, she was defended by arms. When joyous, she admitted the horse pregnant with its soldiers. Then too must she be assailed, when she shall be fretting on being offended by a rival. Then effect it by your means that she go not unrevenged. Let her handmaid, as she combs her hair in the morning, urge her on, and to the sail let her add the resources of the oar. And sighing to herself, let her say in gentle murmurs, "In my idea, you yourself cannot pay him in return." Then let her talk about you, then let her add persuasive expressions, and let her swear that you are perishing with frantic passion. But speed on, let not the sails fall, and the breezes lull. Like brittle ice, anger disappears in lapse of time. You inquire if it is of use to win the handmaid herself. In such attempts there is a great risk. This one becomes more zealous after an intrigue, that one more tardy. The one procures you as a gift for her mistress, the other for her own self. The result is doubtful. Although she should favor your advances, still it is my advice to refrain from so doing. I shall not go over headlong tracks and over sharp crags, and under my guidance no youth shall be deceived. Even if she pleases you, while she gives and receives the letters, by her person, and not only by her zealousness alone. Take care and gain her mistress first, let the other follow as her companion. Your courtship must not be commenced with a servant maid. This one thing I advise you, if you only put some trust in my skill, and if the boisterous wind does not bear my words over the seas. Either do not attempt, or else do you persist. The informer is removed when once she herself has shared in the criminality. The bird does not easily escape when its wings are bird-limed. The boar does not readily get away from the loose nets. The wounded fish can be held by the hook it has seized. Once tried, press her hard, and do not retreat, but as the conqueror. Then, guilty of a fault that is common to you both, she will not betray you, and the sayings and doings of her mistress will be well known to you. But let this be well concealed. If your informant shall be well concealed, your mistress will ever be under your eye. He is mistaken who supposes that time is the object of those only who till the fields, and is to be observed by mariners alone. Neither must the corn be always trusted to the treacherous soil, nor the hollow ships at all times to the green waves, nor is it safe to be ever angling for the charming fair. The same thing may often be better done when an opportunity offers. Whether it is her birthday that comes, or whether the calends, which Venus delights to have as the successor of the month of Mars, or whether the circus shall be adorned, not with statues, as it was before, but shall be containing the wealth of kings exposed to view. Delay your project. Then the storm is boisterous, then the Pleiades prevail. Then the tender kid is sinking in the ocean wave. Then 'tis well to desist. Then, if one trusts the deep, with difficulty he grasps the shipwrecked fragments of his dismantled bark. You may make a beginning on the day on which tearful Alia was stained with the blood of the Latian wounds. On the day, too, when the festival recurs, observed each 7th day by the Syrian of Palestine, a day not suited for the transaction of business. Great must be your dread of the birthday of your mistress, and unlucky be that day on which any present must be made. Though you should cleverly avoid her, still she will spoil you. A woman finds contrivances by means of which to plunder the riches of the eager lover. The loosely clad peddler will be coming to your mistress, so fond of buying, and while you are by, will be exposing his wares. She wills ask you to examine them, only that you may appear to be knowing, then she will give you a kiss, and then entreat you to purchase. She will swear that she will be content with this for many a year. She will say that now she has need of it, now it may be bought a bargain. If you shall make the excuse that you have not the money at home to give, a promissory note will be asked for. It would then profit you not to have learned to write. Besides, too, when she asks for a present, as though for the birthday cake, and is born for her own pleasure as often as she pleases. And further, when full of tears she laments her pretended loss, and the jewel is fain to have fallen from her pierced ear. They ask for many a sum to be lent them, so lent they have no inclination to return them. You lose the whole, and no thanks are there for your loss. Had I 10 mouths, with tongues as many, they would not suffice for me to recount the abominable contrivances of courtesans. Let the wax that is poured upon the polished tablets first try the ford, let the wax first go as the messenger of your feelings. Let it carry your compliments, and whoever you are, add expressions that feign you to be in love, and entreaties not a few. Achilles, moved with his entreaties, granted Hector to Priam. An angered divinity is moved by the voice of entreaty. Take care to make promises, for what harm is there in promising? Any person whatever can be rich in promises. Hope, if she is only once cherished, holds out for a long time. She is, indeed, a deceitful goddess, but still a convenient one. Should you give her anything, you may for that reason be abandoned by her. She will bear off the gift by gone, and will have lost nothing in return. But that which you have not given, you may always seem as though about to give. Thus has the sterile field full oft deceived its owner. So the gambler, in order that he may not lose, does not cease to lose, and the alluring dice ever recall the anxious hand. This is the task, this the labor, to gain her without even the first present. What she has once given, she will always give, that she may not have granted to no purpose. Let the letter go then, and let it be couched in tender expressions, and let it ascertain her feelings, and be the first to feel its way. A letter borne upon an apple deceived Cytip, and by her own words, the fair was unconsciously caught. Youths of Rome, learn, I recommend you, the liberal arts, and not only that you may defend the trembling accused, both the public and the grave judge and the silent senate, as well as the fair, conquered by your eloquence, shall extend their hands. But let your power lie concealed, and do not be eloquent at the first. Let your letters avoid difficult words. Who, but one bereft of sense, would declaim before a charming mistress? Full oft has a letter proved a powerful cause for hatred. Let your language be intelligible, and your words the usual ones, but pleasing so that you may seem to be speaking in person. Should she not accept your letter and send it back unread, hope that she will read it and persist in your design. In time the stubborn oxen come beneath the plows. In time the steeds are taught to submit to the flowing reins. By continued use the ring of iron is consumed. By being in the ground continually, the crooked plow is worn out. What is there harder than stone? What more yielding than water? Yet hard stones are hollowed out by yielding water. Only persist, and in time you will overcome Penelope herself. You see that Pergamus was taken after a long time, still it was taken. If she reads it and will not write an answer, do not attempt to compel her. Do you only make her to be continually reading your flattering lines? What she has been pleased to read, she will be pleased to answer when read. All these things will come in their turn and by degrees. Perhaps even, at first, a discouraging letter will come to you, and one that entreats you not to wish to molest her. What she entreats you to do, she dreads. What she does not entreat you to do, namely, to persist, she wishes you to do. Press on, and soon you will be the gainer of your desires. In the meantime, if she shall be carried lying along upon her couch, do you, as though quite by accident, approach the litter of your mistress, and that no one may give a mischievous ear to your words, cunningly conceal them so far as you can in doubtful signs, if, with sauntering foot, the spacious portico is paced by her. Here, too, do you bestow your leisure in her attendance. And sometimes do you take care to go before, sometimes follow behind, and sometimes be in a hurry, and sometimes walk leisurely. And be not ashamed to pass from the throng under some of the columns, or to walk with her, side by side. And let her not be seated long without you in the curving theater, In her shoulders she will bring something for you to be spectator of. Her you may gaze upon, her you may admire. Much may you say by your brows, much by your gestures. Clap too when the actor is dancing in the part of some damsel, and whatever lover is represented, him applaud. Rise when she rises, sit as long as she is seated, employ your time at the caprice of your mistress. But let it not please you to curl your hair with the irons, and rub not your legs with the rough pumice. Bid those do this, in whose Phrygian notes the Cybelean mother is celebrated by their yells. A neglect of beauty becomes men. Theseus bore off the daughter of Minos, though his temples were bedecked by no crisping pin. Phaedra loved Hippolytus, and he was not finely trimmed. Adonis, habituated to the woods, was the care of a goddess. But let neatness please you, let your body be bronzed on the plain of Mars. Let your robe be well-fitting and without a spot. Let your tongue, too, not be clammy, your teeth free from yellowness, and let not your foot wallop about, losing itself in the shoe down at heel. Let not the cutting shockingly disfigure your hair bolt upright. Let your beard be trimmed by a skillful hand. Let your nails, too, not be jagged, and let them be without dirt, and let no hairs project from the cavities of your nostrils. And let not the breath of your ill-smelling mouth be offensive, and let not the husband and the father of the flock offend the nostrils. The rest, allow the luxurious fair to do, and any man that perchance disgracefully seeks to attract another. Lo, Bacchus calls his own poet. He, too, aids those who love, and he encourages the flame with which he burns himself. The Gnossian fair was wandering distractedly on the unknown sands, where little Dia is beaten by the ocean waves. And just as she was on awaking from her sleep, clothed in a loose tunic, with bare feet, and having her yellow hair loose, she was exclaiming to the deaf waves that Theseus was cruel, while the piteous shower of tears was moistening her tender cheeks. She exclaimed, and at the same moment she wept, but both became her, nor was she rendered unsightly by her tears. And now again, beating her most beauteous bosom with her hands, she cried, "That perfidious man has gone. What will become of me?" "What will become of me?" she said, when cymbals resounded over all the shore and tambourines were beaten with frantic hand. She dropped down with alarm and stopped short in her closing words, and no blood was there in her lifeless body. See, the Mimilonian females with their locks flowing on their backs, see, the nimble satyrs, the throng preceding the god, Sec. Silenus, the drunken old man, on his bending ass, sits there with difficulty, and holds fast by the mane that he presses. While he follows the bacchanals both fly and return, while the unskillful rider is goading on his animal with his stick, slipping from the long-eared ass, he tumbles upon his head. The satyrs cry aloud, "Come, rise up, rise, father." Now the god, from his chariot, the top of which he had wreathed with grapes, loosened the golden reins for the tiger's yoke to it. Both her complexion and Theseus and her voice forsook the fair one, and thrice she attempted flight, and thrice was she detained by fear. She shuddered, just as the barren ears of corn, which the wind shakes, just as the slender reed quivers in the swampy marsh. To her the divinity said, "Lo, I come to thee a more constant lover, damsel of Knossos, lay aside thy fear, the wife of Bacchus shalt thou be. Receive heaven as my gift, a conspicuous constellation in the heavens, full oft, Cretan diadem, shalt thou direct the veering bark." Thus he said, and he leapt from the chariot that she might not be in dread of the tigers. The sand yielded to his foot placed upon it. And folding her in his bosom he bore her off, for to struggle she was unable. How easy 'tis for a god to be able to do anything. Some sing Hymenaeus, some cry Evi Evae. Thus are the god and his bride united in holy wedlock. Therefore, when the gifts of Bacchus placed before you fall to your lot, and the fair one shall be a sharer in the convivial couch, pray both to Father Nictelius and his nocturnal rites, that they will bid the wine not to take effect on your head. Here, in secret discourse, you may say to her many a free word, which she may understand as addressed to her, and you may trace out short compliments with a little wine, so that she may read on the table that she is your favorite, and look on her eyes with eyes that confess your flame. The silent features often have both words and expression. Take care to be the next to seize the cup that has been touched by her lips, and drink from the side that the fair drinks from. And whatever food she shall have touched with her fingers, do you reach for it, and while you are reaching, her hand may be touched by you. Let it also be your object to please the husband of the fair. Once made a friend, he will be more serviceable for your designs. If you are drinking by lot, grant him the first turn. Let the chaplet, taken from your own head, be presented to him. Whether he is below you or whether your neighbor, let him help himself to everything first, and do not hesitate to speak only after he has spoken. Secure and much frequented is the path, for deceiving through the name of friendship. Secure and much frequented though that path be, still it is to be condemned. For this cause, 'tis that the agent attends even too much to his agency, and thinks that more things ought to be looked after by him than those entrusted to him. A sure rule for drinking shall be given you by me. Let both your mind and your feet ever observe their duty. Especially avoid quarrels stimulated by wine and hands too ready for savage warfare. Eurytion met his death from foolishly quaffing the wine set before him. Banquets and wine are rather suited for pleasant mirth. If you have a voice, sing; if pliant arms, dance; and by whatever talent you can amuse. As real drunkenness offends, so feigned inebriety will prove of service. Let your deceiving tongue stutter with lisping accents, so that whatever you shall do or say with more freedom than usual, it may be supposed that excess of wine is the cause. And express all good wishes for your mistress, all good wishes for him who shares her couch, but in your silent thoughts pray for curses on her husband. But when, the tables removed, the guests shall be going, the very crowd will afford you access and room, mix in the throng, and quietly stealing up to her as she walks, twitch her side with your fingers, and touch her foot with your foot. Now is the time come for some conversation. Fly afar hence, coy bashfulness, let chance and Venus befriend the daring. Let your eloquence not be subject to any laws of mine, only make a beginning, of your own accord you will prove fluent. You must act the lover, and wounds must be feigned in your words. Hence let confidence be sought by you, by means of any contrivances whatever. And 'tis no hard matter to be believed, each woman seems to herself worthy to be loved. Though she be ugly in the extreme, to no one are her own looks displeasing. Yet often, he that pretends to love begins in reality. Full oft he becomes that which in the beginning he feigned to be. For this cause, the rather, O ye fair, be propitious to those who pretend. That passion will become real, which so lately was feigned. Now be it your part stealthily to captivate her affection by attentions, just as the shelving bank is encroached on by the flowing stream. Be not tired of praising either her face or her hair, her taper fingers too, and her small foot. The praise of their beauty pleases even the chaste, their charms are the care and the pleasure of even maidens. For, why even now, are Juno and Pallas ashamed at not having gained the decision in the Phrygian groves? The bird of Juno exposes her feathers, when praised; if you look at them in silence, she conceals her treasures. Amid the contests of the rapid course, their trimmed monets and their padded necks delight the steeds. Promise, too, without hesitation. Promises attract the fair. Make any gods you please to be witnesses of what you promise. Jupiter, from on high, smiles at the perjuries of lovers and commands the Aeolian south winds to sweep them away as worthless. Jupiter was accustomed to swear falsely to Juno by the Styx. Now is he himself indulgent to his own precedent. 'Tis expedient that there should be gods, and as it is expedient, let us believe them to exist. Let frankincense and wine be presented on their ancient altars. No repose, free from care and similar to sleep, possesses them. Live in innocence, for a divinity is ever present. Restore the pledge, let piety observe her duties, be there no fraud, keep your hands free from bloodshed. Deceive, if you are wise, the fair alone with impunity, for this one piece of deceit only is good faith to be disregarded. Deceive the deceivers, in a great measure they are all a guilty race, let them fall into the toils which they have spread. Egypt is said to have been without showers that refresh the fields, and to have been parched during 9 years. When Thamyras went to Busiris, and showed that Jupiter could be propitiated by shedding the blood of strangers, to him Busiris said, "Thou shalt become the first sacrifice to Jove, and a stranger, thou shalt produce rain for Egypt." Phalaris, too, burnt in the bowl the limbs of the cruel Perillus. The unhappy inventor was the first to make proof of his work. Each of them was just, and indeed no law is there more righteous than that the contrivers of death should perish by their own contrivances. Therefore, since perjuries with justice impose upon the perjured, let woman grieve, deceived through a precedent her own. Tears, too, are of utility. By tears you will move adamant. Make her, if you can, to see your moistened cheeks. If tears shall fail you, for indeed they do not always come in time, touch your eyes with your wet hand. What discreet person would not mingle kisses with tender words, though she should not grant them, still take them ungranted? Perhaps she will struggle at first, and will say, "You naughty man." Still, in her struggling, she will wish to be overcome. Only let them not, rudely snatched, hurt her tender lips, and take care that she may not be able to complain that they have proved a cause of pain. He who has gained kisses, if he cannot gain the rest as well, will deserve to lose even that which has been granted him. How much is there wanting for unlimited enjoyment after a kiss? Oh, shocking! 'Twere downright clownishness, and not modesty. Call it violence, if you like. Such violence is pleasing to the fair. They often wish, through compulsion, to grant what they are delighted to grant. Whatever fair one has been despoiled by the sudden violence of passion, she is delighted at it, and the chief is as good as a godsend. But she, who, when she might have been carried by storm, has escaped untouched, though in her features she should pretend gladness, will really be sorry. Phoebe suffered violence. To her sister was violence offered, and pleasing was either ravisher to the ravished. The damsel of Scyros being united to the Haemonian hero is a well-known story indeed, but not unworthy to be related. Now the goddess, worthy to conquer the other two at the foot of Mount Ida, had given her reward of the approval of her beauty. Now, from a distant region, had a daughter-in-law come to Priam, and within Ilian walls there was a Grecian wife. All swore in the words of the affronted husband, for the grief of one was the common cause. A disgraceful thing, had he not yielded in this to the entreaties of his mother, Achilles had concealed his manhood by the long garments. What art thou doing, descendant of Aeacus? The wool is no task of thine. Do thou seek glory by other arts of Pallas? What hast thou to do with work baskets? Thy hand is fitted for holding the shield. Why hold the allotted flax in thy right hand, by which Hector shall fall? Spurn those spindles enwrapped in the laborious warp. The lance from Pelion is to be brandished by that hand. By chance in the same chamber there was a royal maiden. In her own undoing she found that he was a male. By force indeed was she overcome, so we must believe. But still, by force was she willing to be overcome. Many a time did she say, "Stay," when now Achilles was hastening to depart. For the distaff laid aside, he had assumed valiant arms. Where now is this violence? Why, with gentle voice, Deidamia, dost thou detain the perpetrator of thy disgrace? As forsooth there is shame in first beginning at any time, so 'tis pleasing to the fair to submit, when the other takes the initiative. Alas, too great is the confidence of any youth in his own good looks, if he awaits for her to be the first to ask him. Let the man make the first approaches, let the man use words of entreaty, she will kindly receive his soft entreaties. To gain your wish, ask, she only wishes to be asked. Tell her the cause and the origin of your desires. Jupiter came as a suppliant to the heroines of olden times, no fair one found fault with great Jove. But if you perceive puffed-up vanity to be the result of your prayers, desist from your design and withhold your advances. Many desire that which flies from them, and hate that which is close at hand. By pressing on less eagerly, remove all weariness of yourself. Nor must your hope of enjoyment be always confessed by you as you entreat. Let love make his entrance concealed beneath the name of friendship. By this introduction, I have seen the prudish fair deceived. He who was the friend became the lover. A fair complexion is unbecoming in a sailor. He ought to be swarthy, from the spray of the sea and the rays of the sun. It is unbecoming, too, to the husbandman, who, with his crooked plough and his heavy harrows, is always turning up the ground in the open air. And if your body is fair, you, by whom the glory of the chaplet of Pallas is sought, you will be unsightly. Let everyone that is in love be pale. That is the proper complexion for one in love. That is becoming. From your features, let the fair think that you are not in good health. Pale with love for Lyris, did Orion wander in the woods. Pale for the Naiad, in her indifference was Daphnis. Thinness, too, shows the feelings, and think it no disgrace to put a hood over your shining looks. Let sleepless nights attenuate the bodies of the youths, care, too, and the grief that proceeds from violent love. That you may gain your desires, be wretched, that he who sees you may be able to say, "You are in love." Shall I complain, or only remind you how all right and wrong is confused? Friendship is but a name, constancy an empty title. Alas, alas, it is not safe to praise the object that you love to your friend. When he has credited your praises, he supplants you. But the descendant of Actor did not defile the couch of Achilles. So far as Pirithous was concerned, Phaedra was chaste. Pylades loved Hermione with the affection with which Phoebus loved Pallas, and he was such, daughter of Tyndarus, as thy twin brother Castor was towards thee. If anyone expects the same, let him expect that the tamarisks will bear apples, and let him look for honey in the middle of the stream. Nothing pleases but what is base, his own gratification is the object of each. This, too, becomes pleasant from the sorrow of another. O disgraceful conduct! No enemy is to be dreaded by the lover. Shun those whom you think trustworthy, then you will be safe. Shun your kinsman and your brother and your dear friend, this class will cause you real alarm. I was here about to conclude, but there are various dispositions in the fair. Treat these 1,000 dispositions in 1,000 different ways. The same soil does not produce everything. One suits the vine, another the olive. In this, corn springs up vigorously. There are as many characters in these various dispositions as there are forms in the world. The man that is wise will adapt himself to these innumerable characters. And as at one moment Proteus will make himself flow in running water, and now will be a lion, now a tree, now a shaggy goat. These fish are taken with a dart, those with hooks. These the encircling nets draw up, the rope being extended. And let no one method be adopted by you for all years. The aged hind will espy from a greater distance your contrivances. Should you seem learned to the ignorant, or forward to the bashful, she will at once distrust herself, now apprehensive. Thence it happens that she who is dreaded to trust herself to the well-bred man often falls into the embrace of some worthless inferior. A part remains of the task which I have undertaken, a part is completed. Here let the anchor, thrown out, hold fast my bark. Book the second. Sing, Iopian and Iopian twice sing, the prey that was sought has fallen into our toils. Let the joyous lover present my lines with the verdant palm, to Hesiod the Ascrean and to Homer the Meonian old man shall I be preferred. Such did the stranger son of Priam set his whitening sails from the armed Amyclae, together with the ravished wife. Such was he who bore thee, Hippodamia, in his victorious chariot, carried by the wheels of the stranger. Why hasten then, young man? Thy ship is sailing in the midst of the waves, and far distant is the harbor for which I make. It is not enough, me your poet, for the fair to be gained by you. Through my skill has she been acquired, through my skill must she be retained. 'Tis no less merit to keep what is acquired than to gain it. In the former there is some chance, in the latter will be a work of art. Now if ever boy Cupid and Cytherea be propitious to me, now Erato, for thou hast a name from love. Great attempts do I contemplate, to tell by what means love can be arrested, the boy that wanders over the world so wide. He is both inconstant, and he has 2 wings with which to fly. 'Tis an arduous task to impose laws on these. Minos had obstructed all means of escape to the stranger. He discovered a bold path with his wings. When Daedalus had enclosed the man half-bull and the bull half-man that was conceived in the criminality of his mother, he said, Most just Minos, let there be a termination of my exile, and let my paternal land receive my ashes. And since, harassed by the cruel destinies, I cannot live in my country, let me be enabled to die. If the merits of an old man are but small, grant a return to this boy. If thou art unwilling to favor the boy, then favor the old man. This he said, but both this and many more things he might have said, the other did not permit a return to the hero. Soon as he saw this, he said, Now, O now, Daedalus, thou hast a subject, upon which thou mayst prove ingenious. Lo, Minos possesses the land, and he possesses the ocean. Neither earth nor water is open for our escape. There remains a path through the heavens. Through the heavens will we attempt to go. Jupiter on high, grant pardon to my design. I do not aim to reach the starry abodes. There is no way but this one by which I may escape the tyrant. Should a road through Styx be granted, then we will swim through the Stygian waves. Let the laws of nature be changed by me. Misfortunes often sharpen the genius. Who could have ever believed that a mortal could attempt the paths of the air? He arranges swift feathers in order, like oars, and connects the light work with fastenings of thread. The lower part, too, is bound together with wax, melted by the fire, and now the work of the new contrivance is finished. The smiling boy handles both the wax and the feathers, not knowing that these instruments are prepared for his own shoulders. To him, his father says, With these ships must we reach our native land. By these means must we escape from Minos. The air Minos could not, all else he has, shut against us. Cleave the air, which still thou mayst, with these my inventions. But neither the virgin of Tegea nor the sword-bearing Orion, the companion of Bootes, will have to be beheld by thee. Follow me with the wings given to thee, I will go before on the way. Be it thy care to follow, me thy leader thou wilt he safe. But if we shall go through the air of the heavens, the sun close to us, the wax will not be able to endure the heat. If we shall wave our wings below, the sea near to us, the fluttering feathers will be wet with the ocean spray. Fly between them both, dread, too, the winds, my son, and whichever way the breezes shall blow, set thy prospering sails. While he thus advises, he fits his work onto the boy and shows how it is to be moved, just as their mother teaches the helpless birds. Then he places upon his shoulders the wings made for himself, and with timidity he poises his body along this new track. And now about to fly, he gives kisses to his little son, and the cheeks of the father do not withhold their tears. There is a hill, less than a mountain, more lofty than the level plain, hence are their two bodies entrusted to their mournful flight. Daedalus both moves his own wings himself, and looks back on those of his son, and he ever keeps on his own course. And now this unusual path delights him, and fear laid aside, Icarus flies more courageously with emboldened skill. A person sees them, while he is angling for fish with his quivering rod, and his right hand desists from the work he has commenced. Now Samos and Naxos had been left behind, on the left hand, and Paros and Delos beloved by the clarion god. Lebynthos was to the right, and Calumny shaded with its woods, and Astypolea surrounded with its fishy shallows when the boy, too venturesome in his inconsiderate daring, took a higher flight and forsook his guide. The fastenings give way, and the wax melts, the divinity being so near and his arms, when moved, no longer catch the light breeze. Alarmed, he looks down upon the sea from the lofty heavens. Darkness, arising from trembling apprehension, comes over his eyes. The wax is now melted, he waves his bare arms, and he trembles and has no means whereby to be supported. Downward he falls, and as he falls he cries, "Father, O Father, I am undone." As he spoke, the azure waves closed his mouth. But the unhappy father, a father now no longer, cried aloud, "Icarus, where art thou? Or under what part of the sky dost thou fly?" "Icarus," again he cried aloud, his feathers he beheld in the waves. The dry land covers his bones, the sea retains his name. Minos could not restrain the wings of a mortal. I myself am attempting to arrest a winged divinity. If anyone has recourse to the Haemonian arts, and gives that which he has torn from the forehead of the young horse, he is mistaken. The herbs of Medea will not cause love to endure, nor yet the Marcian spells mingled with the magic notes. The Phasian damsel would have retained the son of Aeson, Circe, Ulysses, if love could only have been preserved through incantations. Philters, too, causing paleness, are of no use when administered to the fair. Philters injure the intellect and have a maddening effect. Afar be all criminal attempts. To be loved, be worthy to be loved, a property which comeliness or beauty alone will not confer upon you. Though you should be Nereus, be praised by ancient Homer, and the charming Hylas, carried off by the criminality of the Naiads, that you may retain your mistress, and not have to wonder that you are deserted, add the endowments of the mind to the advantages of the person. Beauty is a fleeting advantage, and the more it increases in years, the less it becomes, and itself is consumed by length of time. Neither the violets nor the opening lilies bloom forever, and the rose is lost, the thorny bush is prickly left behind. And handsome man, soon shall come to you the hoary locks, soon shall come the wrinkles to fur your body over. Now form a disposition which may be lasting, and add it to your beauty, that alone endures to the closing pile. And be it no light care to cultivate the mind with the liberal arts, and to learn thoroughly the two languages, the Latin and the Greek. Ulysses was not handsome, but he was fluent, and yet with love he racked the ocean goddesses. Ah, how oft did Calypso grieve at his hastening to depart, and declare that the waves were not favorable to his oars. Again and again did she inquire into the catastrophe of Troy. Often in another manner was he wont to repeat the same thing. On the shore they were standing. Even there did the beauteous Calypso inquire about the blood-stained death of the Odrysian chief. With a little stick, for by chance he was holding a stick, he depicted on the firm shore the subject on which she was inquiring. "This is Troy," said he, and the walls he drew on the shore. "This must be Simwa for thee, and suppose these to be my tents. There was a plain, and here he drew the plain, which we moistened with the blood of Dolon, while, as a spy, he was longing for the Haemonian horses. There were the tents of the Sithonian Rhesus. In this direction was I borne back again by the captured steeds." And many other things was he depicting, when the waves suddenly carried off both Pergamus and the tents of Rhesus together with their chief. Then the goddess said, "Dost thou behold how famous names these waves have swept away, which thou dost trust will be favorable to thee about to depart? Come then with hesitation, feel confidence in beauty so deceiving, whoever you are, or else possess something of more value than comeliness. A beseeming courtesy especially enlists the feelings, rudeness and harsh language promote hatred. We dislike the hawk because it is always living in warfare, the wolves, too, that are wont to rush upon the startled flocks. But the swallow, because it is gentle, is exempt from the snares of men, and the Chionian bird has the turrets for it to inhabit. Afar lie all strife and contentions of the abusive tongue, with sweet words must gentle love be cherished. With strife let both wives persecute their husbands, and husbands their wives, and, each in their turn, let them ever be thinking that they must resort to law. This is the part of wives, strife is the dowry of the wife. Let the mistress ever hear the accents that she longs for. At the bidding of no law have you come to live together. In your case, tease love that performs the duties of the law. Bring soft caresses, and words that delight the ear, that she may ever be joyous at your approach. I do not come as the instructor of the wealthy in love. He who makes presents has no need of my experience. He who says, whenever he pleases, accept this, has a genius of his own. To him do I yield. He has greater attractions than have any discoveries of mine. I am the instructor of the poor because, as a poor man, I have been in love. When I could not give presents, I gave verses. Let the poor man love with caution. Let the poor man stand in fear of bad language, and let him put up with many a thing, not to be endured by the rich. I remember that once, when in a rage, I disarranged the hair of my mistress, of how many a day did that anger deprive me? I do not think I did, and I did not see that I had torn her tunic, but she said so, and at my cost it was replaced. But you who are wise, avoid the errors of your instructor, and stand in awe of the punishment of my transgressions. Let battles be with the Parthians, but be their peace with your refined mistress, mirth too, and whatever besides contains a reason for love. If she is not sufficiently kind or affable to you, her lover, have patience and bear it. After a time she will be softened. By giving way the supple branch is bent from the tree. If you make trial of your strength, you break it. By giving way the waves are swam across, but you cannot overcome the stream if you swim against the flood which the tide carries down. Tease yielding that subdues the tigers and the Numidian lions. By degrees only does the bull submit to the rustic plough. What was there more coy than Atalanta of Non-Acris? Yet, untamed as she was, she yielded to the deserving qualities of a man. They say that many a time, beneath the trees, Melanion wept at his mishaps, and the unkind conduct of the fair one. Full oft on his neck, as ordered, did he bear the treacherous toils, full oft with his cruel spear did he transfix the savage boars. Wounded, too, he experienced the stretched bow of Hylias, but yet there was another bow still more felt than this. I do not bid you in arms to climb the woods of Menalis, and I do not bid you to carry the toils upon your neck. Nor yet do I bid you to expose your breast to the discharged arrows. The requirements of my skill will be but light to the careful man. Yield to her when opposing, by yielding you will come off victorious. Only take care to perform the part which she shall bid you. What she blames, do you blame? Whatever she approves, do you approve? What she says, do you say? What she denies, do you deny? Does she smile, do you smile? If she weeps, do you remember to weep? Let her prescribe the law for the regulation of your features. If she plays and throws the ivory cubes with her hand, do you throw unsuccessfully? Do you make bad moves to the throws? Or if you are throwing the dice, let not the penalty attend upon her losing. Take care that losing throws often befall yourself. If your piece is moving at the game that imitates the tactics of war, take care that your man falls before his enemy of glass. Do you yourself hold the screen stretched out by its ribs? Do you make room in the crowd the way that she is going? And do not delay to place the footstool before the tasteful couch, and take off or put on the sandals for her delicate feet. Often, too, must the hand of your mistress, when cold, be made warm in your bosom, though you yourself should shiver in consequence. And think it no disgrace, although it should be a disgrace to you, still it will give pleasure, to hold the looking-glass with the hand of a free-born man. He who, by killing the monsters of his wearied stepmother, earned those heavens which before he had supported, is believed, amid the Ionian girls, to have held the work-basket, and to have wrought the rough wool. The Terinthian hero was obedient to the commands of his mistress. Go, then, and hesitate to endure what he submitted to. When bidden to come to the forum, take care always to be there before the appointed time, and do not go away until a late hour. Does she appoint to meet you at any place? Put off everything else. Run quickly, and let not the crowd stop your purposed route. Is she returning home at night after having been at a feast? Then, too, if she calls, come to her as though a servant. If you are in the country and she says, "Come," love hates the tardy. If a vehicle is not at hand, go your journey on foot. Let neither bad weather nor the parching dogstar detain you, nor the road made white with the snow that lies there. Love is a kind of warfare. Cowards avaunt. These are not the standards to be defended by timid men. In this tender warfare, night and wintry storms and long journeys and cruel pain and every kind of toil have their part. Many a time will you have to endure the rain pouring from the clouds of heaven. Cold and on the bare ground full oft will you lie. Cynthia said to have fed the cows of Admetus of Faery, and to have lived in an humble cottage. What was becoming to Phoebus, to whom is it not becoming? Away with all conceit, whoever you are, who have a care for a lasting passion. If access is denied you by a safe and smooth path, and if her door shall be fastened by the bar put up, then do you slip straight down through the open roof, let the high window, too, present a secret passage. She will be pleased when she knows that she has proved the cause of risk to you. This will be to your mistress a pledge of your unvarying love. Full oft, Leander, couldst thou have done without thy mistress, that she might know thy passion, thou didst swim across. And be not ashamed to make her handmaids, as each one is superior in rank, nor yet her male servants entirely your own. Salute them each by name, there will be nothing thrown away. Press their humble hands, proud lover, with your own. Moreover, the expense is but trifling. Give to the servant who asks some little present from your means. Make a present, too, to the handmaid on the day on which the Gallic army, deceived by the garments of the matrons, received retribution. Follow my advice and make the lower classes your own. In that number let there always be the porter, and him who lies before the door of her chamber. And I do not bid you present to your mistress any costly gift. Give her moderate ones, but, in your discrimination, well selected from those that are moderate. While the country is abundantly rich in produce, while the branches are bending beneath their load, let the boy bring your gifts from the country in his basket. You may say that they have been sent by you from your suburban retreat, although they may have been bought even in the sacred street. Let him carry either grapes or what Amaryllis was so fond of, but at the present day she is fond of chestnuts no longer. And besides, both with a thrush and a pigeon, sent as a present, you may show how attentive you are to your mistress. By these means are the expectations of death and solitary old age disgracefully made matter of purchase. Oh, may they perish through whom gifts promote criminal objects. Why should I recommend you to send tender lines as well? Alas, poetry does not gain much honor. Verses are praised, but 'tis costly gifts that are sought. If he is only rich, a very barbarian is pleasing. Truly is this the golden age, the greatest honors accrue through gold, love is purchased with gold. Though thou thyself, Homer, shouldst come, attended by the muses, if thou shouldst bring nothing with thee, thou wouldst be turned out of doors. And yet there are the learned fair, a very limited number. Another set are not learned, but they wish to be so. Both kinds may be praised in verse. The reader may set off the lines of whatever quality by a melodious voice. Indeed, a poem, carefully composed in their honor, will be to these or to those as good, perhaps, as a little present. But take care that whatever you are about to do of your own accord and consider convenient, your mistress shall always first ask that of you. Has freedom been promised to any one of your slaves, still cause him to make a request for it of your mistress. If you forgive punishment and cruel fetters to your slave, let her be indebted to you for what you were about to do. Let the advantage be your own, let the credit be given to your mistress. Suffer no loss yourself, and let her act the part of the person in power. But whosoever you are who have a care to retain the fair, cause her to believe that you are enchanted with her beauty. If she is in Tyrian costume, praise the dress of Tyrian hue. If she is in that of Cos, consider the cone habit as becoming. Is she arrayed in gold, let her be more precious in your eyes than gold itself. If she wears a dress of felt, praise the felt dress that she wears. Does she stand before you in her tunic, exclaim, "You are setting me on fire," but entreat her with a voice of anxiety to beware of the cold. Is the parting of her hair nicely arranged, praise the parting of it. Has she curled her hair by aid of the fire, curled locks do you prove the attraction. As she dances, admire her arms, her voice as she sings, and use the words of one complaining because she has left off. Her very embraces you may commend, on the points that please yourself, and with murmuring accents you may signify your delight. Though she be more fierce than the grim Medusa, to her lover she will become gentle and kind. Only take you care that you be not discovered to be a deceiver in these expressions, and by your looks do not contradict your words. If devices are concealed, they are of use. When discovered, they cause shame and deservedly remove confidence for all future time. Often at the approach of autumn, when the year is most beauteous and the filled grape is growing red with its purple juice, at the time when at one moment we are chilled with cold, at another we are melted with heat, through the varying temperature a languor takes possession of the body. She indeed may be in good health, but if, through illness she keeps her bed, and ailing, feels the bad effects of the weather, then let your love and affection be proved to the fair. Then so, that hereafter with the sickle of abundance you may reap. Let no disgust at her malady, that renders her so cross, come upon you. By your hands too let whatever she will permit be done. And let her see you as you weep, and be not tired of giving her kisses, and with her parched lips let her dry up your tears. Make many a vow for her cure, but all before her, and as often as she will permit, be seeing pleasant visions to tell her of. Let the old woman come, too, to purify her couch and chamber, and in her palsied hand let her carry before her the sulphur and the eggs. In all these things there will be traces of a pleasing attention, for many a one has this road proved a path to another man's will. But still, let not loathing on the part of the sick fair be the result of your officiousness. Let there be certain limits shown in your careful attentiveness. Do not you forbid her food, nor administer the cups with the bitter draught. Let your rival mingle those. But when you have gained the open sea, you must not use the breeze to which you set your sails from off the shore. While love is wandering in his youth, let him gain strength by habit. If you nurse him well, in time he will be strong. Him that you fear as a bull, as a calf you were wont to pat, the tree under which you are now reclining was once a twig. A river at its rise is small, but it acquires strength in its course, and where it runs, it now receives many a stream. Make her become used to you, there is nothing more powerful than habit. While you are courting her, avoid no amount of trouble. Let her be always seeing you, let her be always lending ear to you, let both night and day show your countenance. When you have a greater confidence that you may be missed, then, destined to be her care when absent, go away to a distance. Give yourself some repose. The land that has lain fallow gives back in abundance what has been entrusted to it, and the dry ground sucks up the water of the heavens. Demophoon, when present, inflamed Phillies in a less degree. When he had set sail, more violently did she burn. The crafty Ulysses, by his absence, tortured Penelope. Far away, tearful Laodamia was thy hero of Phylace. But a short respite alone is safe. In time, cares become modified, and the absent love decays and a new one makes its entrance. While Menelaus was absent, Helen, that she might not lie alone, was received at night into the warm bosom of his guest. What meant, Menelaus, this stupidity of thine? Thou didst go away alone. Under the same roof were both the stranger and thy wife. And dost thou entrust, madman, the timid doves to the hawk? Dost thou entrust the well-filled sheepfold to the mountain wolf? Helen commits no sin, this paramour of hers does no wrong. He does what anyone would do. Thou dost persuade them to adultery by giving both time and opportunity. What advice but thine own has the fair made use of? What is she to do? Her husband is away, and a guest, no repulsive person, is present, and she is afraid to sleep alone in an empty couch. Let the son of Atreus think better of it. I acquit Helen of criminality. She made use of the opportunity given by an easy husband. But neither is the tawny boar so fierce in the midst of his rage, when he hurls the furious dogs with the lightning shock of his tusks, nor the lioness, when she is giving the breast to her sucking whelps, nor the little viper, when enhired by the heedless foot, as the woman, who is furious on detecting the rival of her nuptial couch, and bears on her features the proofs of her feelings. To the sword and to flames does she resort, and shame laid aside, onward she is impelled, as though struck by the horns of the Ionian god. The barbarian fair one of Phases avenged the fault of her husband, and the violated rights of a wife by the death of her sons. See how another cruel parent, 'tis the swallow that you behold, has her breast stained with blood. This breaks those attachments that are firmly united, those of long duration. These faults must then be guarded against by cautious men. But still, my judgment does not condemn you to one fair alone. The gods forbid. Hardly can the married woman adhere to this. Disport yourself, but let your faultiness be concealed by a decent stealthiness. No glory must be sought in one's own delinquency. And do you give no present of which the other may know, nor be there any stated times for your intriguing. And, lest the fair one should catch you in the retreat so well known to her, all must not be met in the same place of rendezvous. And as often as you shall be writing, do you first examine the whole of the tablet. Many a woman reads more than what has been sent to her. A slighted passion brandishes the arms of retribution and hurls back the weapon, and causes yourself to complain of that of which it complained so lately. So long as the son of Atreus was content with one woman, she, too, was chaste. Through the fault of her husband did she become culpable. She had heard how that Chryses, bearing in his hand the laurel and the falaise, had not prevailed in behalf of his daughter. She had heard, too, ravished one of Leonessus of thy sorrows, and how the warfare had been protracted through disgraceful delays. Still, these things she had only heard of. The daughter of Priam herself she had seen. Thou, the conqueror, wast the disgraced captive of thy own captive. Then did she receive the son of Thyestes, both into her chamber and her affections, and the daughter of Tyndarus avenged herself on a husband so deeply criminal. Your actions, which you have studiously concealed, if perchance any of them are discovered, although they should be notorious, still do you always deny them. On such occasions do you neither be subdued, nor more kind than usual. That bears the marks of a mind that has too deeply offended. Still, spare not any endearments on your side. Peace is entirely centered in caresses alone. By these must the former intrigue be disavowed. There are some who would recommend you to use injurious herbs, such as savory. In my opinion, they are so many poisons. Or else, they mingle pepper with the seed of the stinging nettle, and the yellow chamomile pounded in old wine. But the goddess, whom the lofty Eryx receives beneath his shady hill, does not allow us to be impelled in such manner to her delights. The white onion witch is sent from the Pelasgian city of Alcathoes, and the salacious herbs which come out of the gardens, and eggs may be eaten. The honey of Hymettus may be eaten, and the nuts which the pine tree with its sharp leaves produces. Why, learned Erido, art thou thus diverging into the medical art? The inner side of the turning place must be grazed by my chariot. You, who just now were, by my recommendation, to conceal your delinquencies, change your course, and, by my advice, disclose your intrigues. Nor yet is any inconsistency of mind to be censured. The curving ship does not always carry those on board with the same breezes. For sometimes we run with the Thracian Boreas, sometimes with the east wind. Full aft does the canvas swell with the zephyrs, with the south wind full aft. See how, in the chariot, the driver at one moment gives the flowing rein, at another skillfully checks the horses in full career. There are some with whom an anxious obsequiousness is ruinous, and if there is no rival existing, then their passion waxes faint. The feelings often run riot amid prosperity, and to bear good fortune with equanimity is no easy task. As the declining fire, its strength consuming by degrees, itself lies concealed, and the ashes become white over the surface of the fire. But still, when sulfur is applied, it finds the flames that were extinguished, and the light returns which existed before. So, when the feelings, sluggish through repose and free from care, become torpid, by sharp stimulants must love be aroused. Make her to be jealous on your account, and rekindle her deadened feelings. Let her turn pale at the proof of your inconstancy. O 4 times blessed, and so oft, that it is not possible to limit it to numbers, is that man, on whose account the slighted fair is in grief, who, soon as the charge has reached her unwilling ears, faints away, and both her voice and color leave the sorrowing fair. Would that I were he, whose locks she tears in her fury, would that I were he, whose tender cheeks she tears with her nails, whom she looks upon bursting into tears, whom she beholds with scowling eyes, without whom she cannot exist, but still wishes that she could. If you inquire as to its duration, let the time be short for her to complain of her injuries, lest her anger may acquire strength in the slowly passing lapse of time. And now let her fair neck be encircled in your arms, and as she weeps she must be received in your bosom. Give her kisses as she weeps, bestow her caresses as she weeps. Peace will ensue. By this method alone is anger appeased. When she has been passionately raving, when she shall seem to be an assured enemy, then seek your treaty of peace in caresses, she will then be pacified. For 'tis there that conquered dwells, all arms laid aside. 'Tis in that spot, believe me, that the Graces were born. The doves which fought the moment before are now billing. Their cooing has the meaning of caresses and of words. At first there was a confused mass of things without arrangement, and the stars, the earth, and the ocean were but of one appearance. Afterwards the heavens were placed above the earth, the land was surrounded by the sea, and the confused chaos was divided into its elements. The woods received the beasts, the air the birds as its possession, in the flowing waters you, fishes, were concealed. At that time the human race wandered in the solitary woods, and it consisted of nothing but brute force and a mind quite uninformed. The woods were their houses, grass their food, and leaves their beds, and for a long time the one was unknown to the other. Voluptuous pleasure is said to have been the first to soften their rude dispositions. Afterwards, the woman and the man settled in the same spot. What should they do? They had been instructed by no preceptor. Venus completed this delightful task without any art. The bird has an object to love. The female fish finds in the midst of the waters an object with which to share her joys. The hind follows her mate, the serpent couples with the serpent, the bitch, too, consorts with the dog. The delighted sheep unites with the ram, the heifer also is pleased with the bull, the fiat-nosed she-goat, too, receives her unclean mate. Mares are driven to frenzy and follow the horses, separated by streams, over places far distant from each other in situation. Come then and give an efficacious remedy to the angered fair. Tease that alone that puts an end to violent grief. Tease that remedy which excels the potions of Machion. Through that, when you have offended, you will have to be reinstated. While I was thus singing, Apollo, suddenly appearing, touched with his thumb the strings of his lyre inlaid with gold. In his hands there was a laurel, placed on his holy locks there was a laurel. Visible as a poet he came. Thou instructor in wanton love, says he, come, lead thy pupils to my temples. There is there a sentence celebrated in fame over the universal world, which bids each one to know himself. He who shall be known to himself will alone love with prudence, and will proportion every task to his strength. He to whom nature has given beauty, for that let him be admired. He who has a fair complexion, let him often lie down with a shoulder exposed. He who charms with his discourse, let him break the quietude of silence. He who sings with skill, let him sing. He who drinks with elegance, let him drink. But in the middle of a conversation, neither let those who are eloquent declaim, and let not the insane poet be reciting his own compositions. Thus Phoebus recommended. Observe this recommendation of Phoebus. There is full confidence in the hallowed lips of this divinity. I am now called to my more immediate subject. Whoever shall love with prudence, he will prove successful, and will obtain from my skill what he shall require. The furrows do not always return with interest that which has been entrusted to them, nor does the breeze always aid the veering barks. What pleases lovers is but a little. Tease much more that crosses them. Let them resolve to endure many things with their feelings. As many as are the hairs on Athos, as the bees that feed on Hybla, as the berries which the azure-colored tree of Pallas bears, as the shells on the seashore, so many are the pangs of love. The shafts which we endure are reeking with plenteous gall. She whom perchance you shall see will be said to have gone out of doors. Believe that she is gone out of doors, and that you make a mistake in your seeing. Is the door shut against you on the appointed night? Endure even to lay your body on the dirty ground. Perhaps, too, the lying maid will say with a haughty air, why is that fellow blocking up our door? Suppliantly entreat even the doorposts of the obdurate fair, and place at the door the roses that have been taken from off your head. Come when she desires it. When she shall shun you, you'll go away. It is not becoming for men of good breeding to cause weariness of their company. Why should your mistress be able to say of you, there is no getting rid of this man? The senses are not on the alert at all hours, and deem it no disgrace to put up with the curses of the fair one, or her blows, nor yet to give kisses to her delicate feet. But why dwell upon trifles? Let my mind be occupied with greater subjects. Of great matters will I sing. People, give all attention. I attempt an arduous task, but merit there is none but what is secured by arduous means. By my undertaking are laborious attempts required. Endure a rival with patience. The victory will rest with yourself. You will be the conqueror on the heights of mighty Jove. Believe that not a mortal tells you this, but the Pelasgian oaks of Dodona. My skill has nothing superior to this to teach you. Does she make a sign to him? Do you put up with it? Does she write? Don't you touch the tablets. Let her come from whatever place she likes, and wherever she chooses, let her go. This do husbands allow to their lawful wives, even too when thou, gentle sleep, dost come to thy duty. I confess that in this art I myself am not yet perfect. What must I do? I am myself unequal to my own precepts. And is anyone in my presence to be making signs to my mistress? And am I to endure it? And is not my anger to hurry me away to any extreme? Her own husband, I remember it well, gave her a kiss. I complained of kisses being given. My love is brimful of fierceness. Not once alone has this failing proved an injury to me. He is more skillful, by whose encouragement other men visit his mistress. But 'tis still better to know nothing of it. Allow stealthy intrigues to lie concealed, lest the blush of confession should fly in future from her countenance when detected. With greater reason then, ye youths, forbear to detect your mistresses. Let them be guilty, and guilty let them suppose that they have deceived you. When detected, the passion increases. When the fortune of the two is the same, each persists in the cause of the disgrace. There is a story told, very well known in all the heavens, how Mars and Venus were caught by the contrivance of Mulciber. Father Mars, distracted by a frantic passion for Venus from a terrible warrior, became a lover. Neither did Venus, for, indeed, no goddess is there more kind, proved coy or stubborn to Gradavis. Oh, how many a time is she said, in her wantonness, to have laughed at the feet of her husband, and at his hands, hardened with the fire or his handicraft. In the presence of Mars, mocking him, she imitated her husband, and she was beauteous even while so doing, and many a grace was there combined with her charms. But they were in the habit of skillfully concealing their early intercourse, and their frailty was replete with modest propriety. Through the information of the sun, who is there that can deceive the sun? The actions of his wife became known to Vulcan. Thou sun, what a bad example thou art setting. Ask a bribe of her, and shouldst thou hold thy tongue, she has a favor which she may grant to thee. Around and above the bed, Muliber disposes the hidden toils, the work by its fineness escapes their eyes. He pretends a journey to Lemnos, the lovers come, according to the appointment, entangled in the toils they both lie naked. He calls the gods together, the captives afford a spectacle. People believe that Venus could hardly restrain her tears, they cannot conceal their faces, they cannot, in fact, veil their modesty with their hands. Upon this one says, laughing, transfer to me thy chains, most valiant Mavers, if they are a burden to thee. With difficulty Neptune at thy entreaty does he release their captured bodies. Mars makes for Thrace and she for Paphos. This, Vulcan, was done by thee, what before they used to conceal, they now do more openly, since all modesty is gone. Yet often, foolish one, dost thou confess that thou didst act unwisely, and they say that thou hast repented of thy wrath. This I have already forbidden. Lo. Dione forbids you to suffer that detection which she herself endured. And do you arrange no toils for your rival, and intercept no words written by the hand in secret. Let the men seek for those, if, indeed, they think they ought to be sought for, whom the fire and water render lawful husbands. Behold, again do I protest, no sportive subject is here treated of, but what is permitted by the laws, there is no matron concerned with my sallies. Who would dare to publish to the profane the rites of Ceres, and the great mysteries that were established in the Thracian Samos? 'Tis a small merit to hold one's silence upon matters, but on the other hand, 'tis a grievous fault to speak of things on which we should be silent. Oh, justly does it happen, that the blabbing Tantalus is thirsting in the midst of the water, the apples on the tree being caught at by him in vain. Cytherea especially bids her rights to be concealed. I recommend no talkative person to approach them. If the mysteries of Venus are not enclosed in chests, and the hollow cymbals do not resound with frantic blows, although among ourselves they are celebrated by universal custom, yet it is in such a manner that among us they demand concealment. Venus herself, as oft as she lays her garments aside, conceals her groin with the left hand, a little bent back. The cattle couple in public, and promiscuously, even when this is seen, full oft the fair one turns away her face. Chambers and doors are provided for our stealthy dalliance, and our nakedness lies concealed by garments placed over it. And if we do not require darkness, still we do something of a retired shade and something less exposed than open day. In those times, even when tiles did not as yet keep out the sun and the shower, but the oak was affording both shelter and food, in the groves and caves, and not in the open air, were shared the delights of love. So great was the regard for modesty, even in a savage race. But nowadays we give praises to the exploits of the night, and nothing beyond the power of talking of it is purchased at a heavy price. You will, forsooth, be discussing all the damsels in every quarter, that you may say to every person, she too has been mine, that none may be wanting for you to point at with your fingers, and as you touch upon each, there will be a scandalous tale. But I am complaining of trifles. Some pretend things, which, if true, they would deny, and not declare that there is not a woman from whom they have not received the last favor. If they cannot meddle with their persons, so far as they can, they meddle with their names, and their persons untouched, their reputation bears the blame. Go now, odious keeper, and shut the doors of the fair, and add to the solid doorposts 100 bars. What safety is there, while the defiler of character exists, and desires to be thought that he is that which it has not proved his lot to be? Even my real amours I confess, but with reserve, and my secret intrigues are concealed with sure fidelity. Especially forbear to censure the blemishes of the fair. To many it has proved of advantage to conceal them. Her complexion was not made an objection against Andromeda by him, on whose 2 feet were the waving wings. To all others Andromache seemed of larger stature than was becoming. Hector was the only one who called her of moderate size. What you endure with impatience, accustom yourself to, and you will endure it with patience. Length of time makes many things endurable, but a rising passion catches sight of everything. While the young branch is uniting within the green bark, whatever breeze shakes it while now tender, it falls. Soon, hardened in time, the same tree will stoutly resist the winds and bear the adopted fruit. Time itself removes all blemishes from the person, and what was a fault in lapse of time ceases so to be. The nostrils that are unaccustomed to it are not able to endure the hides of bulls. The odor is not perceived by those that have been rendered used to it in length of time. We may palliate faults by names. Let her be called swarthy, whose blood is blacker than the pitch of Illyria. If she has a cast in the eyes, she is like Venus, if yellow-haired, like Minerva. She that is only half alive through her leanness, let her be graceful. Whatever woman is small, say that she is active, her that is gross, call plump, and let each fault lie concealed in its proximity to some good quality. And don't you inquire what year she is now passing, nor under what consulship she was born, a privilege which the rigid censor possesses. And this especially if she has passed the bloom of youth, and her best years are fled, and she now pulls out the whitening hairs. This age, O youths, or even one more advanced, has its advantages. This soil will produce its crops, this is worth the sowing. While strength and years permit, endure labor. Soon will bending old age come with silent foot. Either cleave the ocean with the oars, or the earth with the plow, or turn your warlike hands to cruel arms, or devote your strength and your attention to the fair. This, too, is a kind of warfare. This, too, seeks its advantages. Besides, in these there is a greater acquaintance with their subject, and there is long practice, which alone renders skillful. By attention to dress they repair the ravages of years, and by carefulness they cause themselves not to appear aged, equals. Uc velis, venerem jungunt per mil figuras. Inveniat plures nullite bella modos. Illis sentitur non irritata voluptas. Quod juvit, ex equo f semina vercferent. Odi concubitus, qui non utrumque resolvent. Hoc est, cur puri tangur amore minus. Odi qui prebit, quia sit preber nesses. Sic ectalana cogitat ipsa sua equals. Qui datur officio, non est mihi grata voluptas. Officium facit nulla pula mihi. Mi voces audir juvet sua gaudia faces. Uc more memit, sustenimque rogit. Aspicium domens victos amends ocelos. Langat, et tangisivetat iliadu equals. Those advantages has nature given not to early youth, which are wont to spring up soon after 7 times 5 years have passed. Those who are in a hurry, let them drink of new wine. For me let the cask, stored up in the times of ancient consuls, pour forth the wine of my ancestors. No plane tree but a mature one is able to withstand Phoebus. The shooting grass, too, hurts the tender feet. And could you, forsooth, have preferred Hermione to Helen, and was Gorge more attractive than her mother? Whoever you are that wish to enjoy matured passion, if you only persevere, you will obtain a fitting reward, equals. Conscius ex duos excepit lectus amantes. Ad thalami clauses, musa, raciste fors. Spont sua sine t, celobrima verba liquenter. Nec manus in lecto leva jaspit in urs. Invenient digiti, quod agent in partibus. In quibus occult spicula figit amor. Fecit in Andromache prius hoc fortissimus Hector. Nec solium bellis utuis file fuit. Fecit et, in capta leonuside magnus Achilles. Cum primerit malum licius ab hastorum equals. Illis t tangimanibus brisae sinebas. In beauty phrygia qui ni semper erant. In fuit hoc ipsum, quad t lasciva juverit. Ad tua victrices membra ven Hermanus. Creed mihi, non est generis properanda voluptas. Sed sensim tarda prolation demora. Cum loca repereris, qui tangi f semina gaudet. Non obstet, tangas quo minus ilia pudor. Id spicix oculos tremulo fulgur macantes. Ut sol a liquida sep refulgit aqua. Excedent questus, excedit amabile murmur. Et dulces gemitus, aptec verba loco. Sed nec tu dominam velis majoribus usus. Design, nec cursus antit ilia tuos. Ad metem properate simul, turn plena voluptas. Cum parator victi fomina verc jacent. Hae tibi servandus tenor est, cum libera danter. Oscia, furtivum nec timor ergit opus. Cum mora non tuta est, todes incumber remes. Util, et admisso subdir calcar equo equals. There is an end now of my task. Grant me the palm, ye grateful youths, and present the myrtle garlands to my perfumed locks. As great as was Podalirius among the Greeks in the art of healing, as the descendant of Aeacus with his right hand, as Nestor with his eloquence, as great as Calchas was in soothsaying, as the son of Telamon was in arms, as Automedon was in guiding the chariot, so great a lover am I. Celebrate me as your bard, ye men, to me repeat my praises. Let my name be sung throughout all the earth. Arms have I given to you, to Achilles Vulcan gave arms. With the gifts presented to you, prove victorious, as he proved victorious. But whoever subdues the Amazon with my weapons, let him inscribe upon his spoil, Naso was my preceptor. And lo, the charming fair are asking me to give them my precepts. You then shall be the next care of my song. Book the third. With arms against the Amazons I have furnished the Greeks. Arms remain for me to present, Penthesilea, to thee and to thy squadrons. Go to the combat equally prepared, and may those prove the victors, whom genial Dione favors, and the boy who flies over the whole world. It was not fair for the females unprotected to engage with the men in arms, and so it would have been disgraceful for you to conquer, ye men. One of the multitude may say, why add venom to the serpent, and why deliver the sheepfold to the ravening wolf? Forbear to lay the culpability of the few upon the many, and let each fair one be considered according to her own deserts. If the younger son of Atreus has Helen, and the elder son of Atreus has the sister of Helen to charge with criminality, if the son of Oclus, through the wickedness of Eriphyle, daughter of Talion, alive and with living steeds, descended to Styx. There is Penelope Constant, while her husband was wandering for twice 5 years, and for as many years engaged in war. Witness the hero from Phylace, and her who is said to have descended as the companion of her husband, and to have died before her destined years. The wife from Pagasae redeemed the son of Pheres from death, and in place of the funeral of her husband the wife was carried out. Receive me, Capaneus, we will mingle our ashes, said the daughter of Iphias, and she leapt on the midst of the pile. Virtue herself, too, is a female, both in dress and name. 'Tis not to be wondered at if she favors her own sex. But still, 'tis not such dispositions as these that are required by my art. Sails of less magnitude are befitting my skiff. Nothing but wanton dalliance is taught by me. In what manner a woman is to be loved, I purpose to teach. The woman repels neither the flames, nor the cruel bow. Those weapons, I see, make less havoc among the men. Many a time do the men prove false, not often the charming fair, and if you make inquiry, they have but few charges of fraud against them. Jason, the deceiver, repudiated the fashion when now a mother, and into the bosom of the son of Aeson there came another bride. Ariadne, left alone in an unknown spot, had fed the sea-birds so far Theseus as thou wast concerned. Inquire why she is said to have gone on her 9 journeys, and hear how the woods lamented fillies, their foliage laid aside. And Alyssa, she has the credit of affection, and still that guest of thine, Alyssa, afforded both the sword and the cause for thy destruction. Shall I tell what it was that ruined thee? Thou didst not know how to love, thou wast wanting in skill, through skill love flourishes forever. Even still would they have been ignorant, but Cytherea commanded me to instruct them, and stood herself before my eyes. Then to me she said, why have the unfortunate fair deserved this? An unarmed multitude is handed over to the men in arms. 2 treatises have rendered them skillful. This side, as well, must be instructed by thy advice. He who before had uttered reproaches against the wife from Therapne, soon sang her praises to a more fortunate lyre. If well I know thee, injure not the fair whom thou dost adore. Their favor must be sought by thee so long as thou shalt live. Thus she said, And from the myrtle, for she was standing with her locks wreathed with myrtle, she gave me a leaf and a few berries. Receiving them, I was sensible of the divine influence as well. The sky shone with greater brightness, and all care departed from my breast. While she inspires my genius, hence receive the precepts, ye fair, which propriety and the laws and your own privileges allow you. Even now be mindful of old age, that one day will come, then will no time be passed by you in idleness. Disport yourselves, while yet you may, and while even now you confess to your true years. After the manner of the flowing stream, do the years pass by. Neither shall the water which has passed by be ever recalled, nor can the hour which has passed ever return. You must employ your youthful age, with swift step age is gliding on, and that which follows is not so pleasing as that which having passed was charming. Those brakes which are withering, I have beheld as beds of violets. From amid those brambles has a beauteous chaplet been gathered for myself. The time will be when you, who are now shutting out a lover, will be lying, an old woman, chilled in the lonely night. No door of yours will be broken open in the broils of the night, nor will you find in the morning your threshold bestrewed with roses. How soon, Ami, are our bodies pursed with wrinkles, and that color which existed in the beauteous face fades away. The gray hairs, too, which you might have sworn that you had had from childhood, will suddenly be sprinkled over all your head. Old age is thrown off by serpents, together with the light slough, and the shedding of their horns makes the stags not to be old. Our advantages fly irretrievably. Pluck the flowers, then. If they be not plucked, they will lamentably fade themselves to your sorrow. Besides, childbearing makes the hours of youth more short-lived. With continual crops the soil waxes old. Endymion of Latmus, O moon, causes not thee to blush, nor was Cephalus a prey for the rosy goddess to be ashamed of. Though Adonis be allowed to Venus, whom she yet laments, whence had she Aeneas and Hermione for her children? Follow, O race of mortals, the example of the goddesses, and refuse not your endearments to the eager men. Even should they deceive you, what do you lose? All remains the same. Were 1,000 to partake thereof, nothing is wasted thereby. Iron is worn away, stones are consumed by use, your persons are proof against all apprehension of detriment. Who would forbid light to be taken from another light presented, or who, on the deep sea, would hoard up the expanse of waters? But 'tis not right, you say, for any woman to grant favors to a man. Tell me, what are you losing but the water, which you may take up again? Nor are my words urging you to prostitution, but they are forbidding you to fear evils that do not exist. Your favors are exempt from loss to yourselves. But while I am in harbor, let a gentle breeze impel me, destined to sail with the blasts of a stronger gale. I begin with dress. From the well-dressed vine Bacchus has birth, and in the well-dressed field the high corn springs up. Beauty is the gift of the divinity. How many a one prides herself on her beauty? Still, a great part of you is wanting in such endowments. Care will confer charms, charms neglected will perish, even though she be like the Idalian goddess. If the fair of olden times did not pay such attention to their persons, neither had the ancients men so well dressed. If Andromache was clad in a coarse tunic, what wonder is it? She was the wife of a hardy soldier. And would his companion, forsooth, come bedecked to Ajax, him whose covering was 7 hides of oxen? Formerly, a rustic simplicity existed. Now gorgeous Rome possesses the wealth of the subdued earth. See the Capitol, what it now is and what it was, you would declare that they belonged to different Jupiters. The Senate House, which is now right worthy of an assemblage so august, when Tatius held the sway, was made of straw. The fields of the Palatine Hill, which are now resplendent in honor of Phoebus and our rulers, what were they but pastures for the oxen that plowed? Let old times delight others. I congratulate myself that I am born thus late. This is the age that is suited to my tastes. Not because the pliable gold is now dug out of the earth, and choice shells come here from foreign shores, nor yet because, the marble cut out, mountains diminish, nor yet because the azure waves are kept out by the moles, but because civilization prevails, and because the rude manners that flourished with our ancient forefathers have not come down to our days. But do not you as well load your ears with precious stones, which the tawny Indian seeks in the green waves, and do not go forth heavily loaded with clothes embroidered with gold. By the wealth through which you seek to attract us, you often drive us away. By neatness we are captivated. Let not your hair be without arrangement. The hands applied to it both give beauty and deny it. The method, too, of adorning is not a single one. Let each choose the one that is becoming it to her, and let her first consult her mirror. An oval face becomes a parting upon the unadorned head. Laodamia had her hair thus arranged. Round features require a little knot to be left for them on the top of the head, so that the ears may be exposed. Let the hair of another he thrown over either shoulder. In such guise art thou, tuneful Phoebus, thy lyre being assumed. Let another lave her hair tied behind after the manner of well-girt Diana, as she is wont when she hunts the scared wild beasts. It becomes another to have her floating locks to flow loosely. Another must be bound by falace over her fastened tresses. Another, it delights to be adorned with the figure of the tortoise of the Selenian god. Let another keep up her curls that resemble the waves. But neither will you count the acorns on the branching native oak, nor how many bees there are in Hybla, nor how many wild beasts on the Alps, nor am I able to comprehend in numbers so many modes. Each successive day brings a new fashion. Even neglected locks are becoming to many. Often would you suppose that they are lying neglected since yesterday, the very moment before they have been combed afresh. Let art imitate chance. 'Twas thus that in the captured city when Hercules beheld Iole, "Her," said he, "do I love." In such guise, deserted fair one of Knossos, did Bacchus bear thee away in his chariot, while the satyrs shouted Evo. Oh, how indulgent is nature to your beauty, whose blemishes can be atoned for in fashions so numerous. We men, to our misfortune, become bald, and our hair, carried away by time, falls off, like Boreas shaking down the leaves. The female stains her gray hair with the herbs from Germany, and by art a color is sought superior to the genuine one. The female walks along, thickly covered with purchased hair, and for money she makes that of others. Here comes those of fair complexion. Black became the laughter of brisses. Nor is she ashamed to buy it openly. We see it being sold before the eyes of Hercules and the virgin throng. What am I to say on clothing? Gold flounces, I have no need of you, nor you the wool which dost blush twice dipped in Tyrian purple. Since so many colors can be procured at a lower price, what folly it is to be carrying a fortune on one's person. Lo, there is the color of the sky, at the time when the sky is without clouds, and the warm south wind is not summoning the showers of rain. Lo, there is the color like to thee, that art said once to have borne away Phrixus and hell from the treachery of Ino. That which resembles the waves has its name, too, from the waves. I could imagine that the nymphs are clad in vestments of this color. Another resembles saffron. In saffron-colored garments is the dewy goddess dressed when she yokes her steeds that bear the light of day. Another resembles the Paphian myrtles, another the purple amethysts, or the white roses, or the Thracian crane. Neither are there wanting, amaryllis, thy chestnuts, nor yet almonds, and wax has given its own name to woolen textures. As many as the flowers which the renewed earth produces, when in warm spring the vine puts forth its buds, and sluggish winter retreats, so many, or still more, shades of dye does the wool imbibe. Choose them by rule, for every color will not be suitable to every complexion. When she was carried off, then, too, was she clothed in a dark garment. White befits the swarthy. In white, daughter of Cepheus, thou wast charming. By thee thus clothed was Seriphos trodden. How nearly was I recommending you that there should be no shocking goat in the armpits, and that your legs should not be rough with harsh hair. But I am not instructing fair ones from the crags of Caucasus, and who are drinking, Mysian Caicus, of thy waves. Besides, need I to recommend that idleness should not blacken your teeth, and that your mouth ought to be washed each morning with water used for the purpose. You know, too, how to find whiteness in an application of wax. She who is blushing with no real blood is blushing by the aid of art. With skill do you fill up the bared edges of the eyebrows, and the little patch covers your cheeks in all their genuineness. 'Tis no harm, too, to mark the eyes slightly with ashes, or with saffron produced beauty acidness near to thee. I have a little treatise, but through the care bestowed, a great work, in which I have mentioned the various recipes for your beauty. From that as well, do you seek aid for your diminished charms. My skill is not idle in behalf of your interests. But let not your lover discover the boxes exposed upon the table. Art, by its concealment only, gives aid to beauty. Whom would not the paint disgust, besmeared all over your face, when, through its own weight, it flows and falls upon your heated bosom? Why is the smell of the aesopum so powerful, sent from Athens though it be, an extract drawn from the filthy fleece of the sheep? Nor would I recommend you in his presence to apply the mixture of the marrow of the deer, nor before him to clean your teeth. These things will give you good looks, but they will be unbecoming to be seen. there are many things, too, which, disgusting while being done, add charms when done. The statues which now bear the name of the laborious Myron were once a sluggish weight and a solid mass. That the ring may be made, the gold is first beat. The clothes that you are wearing were once dirty wool. While it was being wrought, it was hard stone. Now, as a beautiful statue, naked Venus is wringing the moisture from her dripping locks. You, too, while you are dressing, let us suppose to be asleep. After the finishing hand, you will be seen much more apropos. Why is the cause of the fairness of your complexion known to me? Shut the door of your chamber. Why expose the work half done? It is proper for the men to be in ignorance of many a thing. The greatest part of things would cause disgust, if you were not to conceal what is within. Examine the gilded statues which hang in the decorated theater, how thin the tinsel that covers the wood. But it is not permitted the public to approach them unless completed, neither ought your charms to be heightened unless the men are at a distance. But I would not forbid you to allow your hair to be combed in their presence, so that it may be flowing along your back. Only take care especially on such occasions not to be cross, and do not many times undo your hair, pulled down, when fastened up. Let your coiffures be with a whole skin. I detest her who tears the face of her attendant with her nails, and who, seizing the hairpin, pierces her arms. As she touches the head of her mistress, she curses it, and at the same time, streaming with blood, she is crying over the odious locks. The fair one that has but little hair, let her set a watch on her threshold, or let her always make her toilet in the temple of the good goddess. I was unexpectedly announced as having paid a visit to a certain lady. In her confusion, she put on her locks the wrong side before. May a cause of shame so disgraceful fall to the lot of my foes, and may that dishonor happen to the Parthian dames. A mutilated animal is repulsive, the fields without grass are repulsive, and so is a shrub without foliage and a head without hair. You have not come to be instructed by me, Semele, or Leda, thou, too, Sidonian fair, who wast borne across the sea upon the fictitious bull, or Helen, whom Menelaus, not without reason, thou didst demand to be restored to thee, and whom, not without reason, thou Trojan ravisher, didst retain. A multitude comes to be instructed, both pretty and ugly damsels, and the unsightly are ever more in number than the good-looking. The beauteous care less for the resources and the precepts of art. They have their own endowments, charms that are powerful without art. When the sea is calm, the sailor rests free from care. When it becomes boisterous, he appeals to his own resources. Few, however, are the forms free from defect. Conceal your blemishes and, so far as you can, hide the imperfections of your person. If you are short, sit down, that, while standing, you may not appear to be sitting, and if of a diminutive size, throw yourself upon your couch. Here, too, that your measure may not be able to be taken as you lie, take care that your feet are concealed with the clothes thrown over them. She who is too thin, let her wear clothes of thick texture, and let her vestments hang loosely from her shoulders. Let her who is pale tint her complexion with purple stripes. Do you that are more swarthy, have recourse to the aid of the Pharian fish. Let an ill-shaped foot be always concealed in a boot of snow-white leather steeped in alum, and do not unloose their laced sandals from the spindly legs. For high shoulders, small pads are suitable, and let the girth encircle the bosom that is too prominent. She whose fingers are dumpy, and whose nails are rough, should mark with but little gesture whatever is said. She, whose breath is strong-smelling, should never talk with an empty stomach, and she should always stand at a distance from her lover's face. If your teeth are black, or large, or not growing straight, you will suffer very great inconvenience from laughing. Who could have supposed it? The fair take lessons even in laughing, and even in that respect is gracefulness studied by them. Let your mouth be but moderately open, let the dimples on either side he but small, and let the extremity of the lips cover the upper part of the teeth. And do not let your sides be shaking with prolonged laughter, but let them utter sounds gentle and feminine, to I know not what degree. Some there are, who distort their face with an unsightly grin. Another, when she is joyous in her laughter, you would take to be crying. Another makes a harsh noise, and screams in a disagreeable manner, just as the unsightly she-ass brays by the rough millstone. To what point does not art proceed? Some study how to weep with grace, and cry at what time and in what manner they please. Nay, further, when the letters are deprived of their full sound, and the lisping tongue becomes contracted with an affected pronunciation, then is grace sought in an imperfection. To pronounce certain words badly, they learn to be less able to speak than they really are. To all these points, since they are of consequence, give attention. Learn how to walk with steps suited to a female. Even in the gait, there are certain points of gracefulness not to be disregarded. This both attracts and repels men who are strange to you. This fair one moves her sides with skill, and with her flowing tunics catches the breeze and haughtily moves her extended feet. Another walks just like the red-faced spouse of some Umbrian husband, and straddling takes huge strides. But as in many other things, let there be a medium here as well. One movement is clownish, another movement will be too mincing in its gait. But let the lower part of your shoulders and the upper part of your arm be bare, to be beheld from your left hand upwards. This is especially becoming to you, ye of fair complexion. When I see this, I have always a longing to give a kiss to the shoulder, where it is exposed. The sirens were monsters of the deep, which with their tuneful voices detained the ships, even though in full career. On hearing them, the son of Sisyphus almost released his body from the mast, for the wax was melted in the ears of his companions. The voice is an insinuating quality. Let the fair learn how to sing. In place of beauty, her voice has proved the recommendation of many a woman. And sometimes let them repeat what they have heard in the marble theaters, and sometimes the songs attuned to the measures of the Nile. Neither, in my way of thinking, ought a clever woman to be ignorant how to hold the plectrum in her right hand, the lyre in her left. Orpheus of Rhodope with his lyre moved rocks and wild beasts and the lakes of Tartarus and Cerberus the triple dog. At thy singing, most righteous avenger of thy mother, the attentive stones built up the walls. The fish, the well-known story of the lyre of Arion, although he was dumb, is supposed to have been moved by his voice. Learn, too, to sweep the chords of the festive psaltery with your two hands. 'Tis an instrument suited to amorous lays. Let the songs of Callimachus be known to you. Let those of the poet of Cos, let the Teian muse too of the drunken old bard. Let Sappho too be well known, for what is there more exciting than she or than him, through whom the father is deceived by the tricks of the crafty Geta? You may too have read the poems of the tender Propertius, or something of Gallus, or thy works Tibullus. The fleece too so bewailed, O Phrixus, of thy sister, shining with its yellow hair, celebrated by Varro. The exiled Aeneas, as well, the first origin of lofty Rome, than which no work exists in Latium of greater fame. Perhaps, too, my name will be mingled among these, and my writings will not be consigned to the waters of Lethe. And people will one day say, read the elegant lines of our master in which he instructs the two sides, or of his 3 books which the title designates as the Amours, choose a portion to read with skillful lips in a languishing way. Or let his epistles be repeated by you with well-modulated voice. This kind of composition, unknown to others, did he invent. O Phoebus, mayst thou so will it. So too, ye benignant divinities of the poets, Bacchus, graceful with thy horns, and you, ye 9 goddesses. Who can doubt that I should wish the fouler one to know how to dance, that, the wine placed on table, she may move her arms in cadence, when requested. Masters of posture, the representations on the stage, are much valued, so much gracefulness does that pliant art possess. I am ashamed to advise on trifling points, to understand how to throw a cast of dice, and thy value the cube when thrown. And now let her throw the 3 numbers, now let her consider, at which number she can cleverly enter most conveniently, and which one she must call for. And, with her skill, let her play not amiss at the hostilities of the pieces when the single man perishes between his 2 enemies. How the warrior, too, wages the war when caught without his companion, and how the enemy full oft retreats on the path on which he has begun. Let the smooth balls, too, be poured into the open net, and not a ball must be moved but the one which you shall be lifting up. There is a kind of game, distributed into as many lines on a small scale as the fleeting year contains months. A little table receives 3 pebbles on each side, on which to bring one's own into a straight line is to gain the victory. Devise 1,000 amusements. 'Tis shocking for the fair one not to know how to play. Many a time, while playing, is love commenced. But the least matter is how to use the throws to advantage. 'Tis a task of greater consequence to lay a restraint on one's manners. While we are not thinking and are revealed by our very intentness, and through the game our feelings laid bare are exposed, anger arises, a disgraceful failing, and the greed for gain, quarrels too and strife, and then bitter regrets. Recriminations are uttered, the air resounds with the brawl, and every one for himself invokes the angry divinities. There is no trusting the tables, and, amid vows, new tables are called for. Full oft, too, have I seen cheeks wet with tears. May Jupiter avert from you indiscretions so unbecoming, you, who have a care to be pleasing to any lover. To the fair has nature in softer mood assigned these amusements, with materials more abundant do the men disport. They have both the flying ball, and the javelin, and the hoop and arms, and the horse train to go round the ring. No plain of Mars receives you, nor does the spring of the Virgin, so intensely cold, nor does the Etrurian river carry you along with its smooth stream. But you are allowed, and it is to your advantage, to go in the shade of Pompey's portico, at the time when the head is heated by the steeds of the constellation of the Virgin. Frequent the Palladium, consecrated to the laurel-bearing Phoebus, 'twas he that overwhelmed in the deep the ships of Parsitonium. The memorials also, which the Bister and the wife of our ruler have erected, his son-in-law too, his head encircled with naval honors. Frequent the altars of the Memphian heifer, that smoke with frankincense, frequent the 3 theaters in conspicuous positions. Let the sand, stained with the warm blood, have you for spectators, the goal also to be passed with the glowing wheels. That which lies hid is unknown, for what is not known there is no desire. All advantage is lost when a pretty face is without one to see it. Were you to excel even Thamyras and Eusebius in your singing, there would be no great regard for your lyre, while unknown. If Apelles of Cos had never painted Venus, she would have lain concealed beneath the ocean waves. What but fame alone is sought by the hallowed poets? The sum of all my labors has that crowning object. In former days, poets were the care of rulers and of kings, and the choirs of old received great rewards. Hallowed was the dignity, and venerable the name of the poets, and upon them great riches were often bestowed. Aeneas, born in the mountains of Calabria, was deemed worthy, great Scipio, to be placed near to thee. At the present day, the ivy lies abandoned without any honor, and the laborious anxiety that toils for the learned muses receives the appellation of idleness. But be it our study to lie on the watch for fame, who would have known of Homer, if the Iliad, a never-dying work, had lain concealed? Who would have known of Danae, if she had been forever shut up, and if, till an old woman, she had continued concealed in her tower? The throng, ye beauteous fair, is advantageous to you. Turn your wandering steps full oft beyond your thresholds. The she-wolf goes on her way to the many sheep, that she may carry off but one, and the bird of Jove pounces down upon the many birds. Let the handsome woman, too, present herself to be seen by the public. Out of so many, perhaps there will be one for her to attract. In all places, let her ever be desirous to please, and with all attention, let her have a care for her charms. Chance is powerful everywhere. Let your hook be always hanging ready. In waters where you least think it, there will be a fish. Many a time do the hounds wander in vain over the woody mountains, and sometimes the stag falls in the toils, with no one to pursue him. What was there for Andromeda, when bound, less to hope for than that her tears could possibly charm anyone? Many a time, at the funeral of a husband, is another husband found. To go with the tresses disheveled, and not to withhold your lamentations, is becoming. But avoid those men who make dress and good looks their study, and who arrange their locks, each in its own position. What they say to you they have repeated to 1,000 damsels. Their love is roving, and remains firm in no one spot. What is the woman to do, when the man himself is still more effeminate, and himself perchance may have still more male admirers? You will hardly believe me, but still, do believe me. Troy would have been still remaining if it had followed the advice of its own Priam. There are some men who range about, under a fictitious appearance of love, and, by means of such introductions, seek disgraceful lucre. And do not let the locks deceive you, shining much with the liquid nard, nor yet the narrow belt, pressed upon the folds of their dress. Nor let the robe of finest texture beguile you, nor yet if there shall be many and many a ring on their fingers. Perhaps the best dressed of the number of these may be some thief, and may be attracted by a desire for your clothes. Give me back my property. Full oft do the plundered fair ones cry, give me back my property, the whole forum resounding with their cries. Thou, Venus, unmoved, and you, ye goddesses, hear the Epean way, from your temples blazing with plenteous gold, behold these disputes. There are even certain names notorious by a reputation that admits of no doubt. Those females who have been deceived by many share the criminality of their favorites. Learn, then, from the complaints of others, to have apprehensions for yourselves, and do not let your door be open to the knavish man. Refrain, Cecropian fair, from believing Theseus when he swears, the gods whom he will make his witnesses, he has made so before. And no trust is there left for thee, Demophoon, heir to the criminality of Theseus, since Phillies has been deceived. If they are lavish of their promises, in just as many words do you promise them. If they give, do you too give the promised favors. That woman could extinguish the watchful flames of Vesta, and could bear off the sacred things, daughter of Inachus, from thy temples, and could administer to her husband the aconite, mixed with the pounded hemlock, if on receiving a present she could deny a favor. My feelings are prompting me to go too close. Check the rein, my muse, and be not hurled headlong by the wheels in their full career. Should lines, written on the tablets made of fur, try the soundings, let a maid suited for the duty take in the billets that are sent. Examine them, and collect from the words themselves whether he only pretends what you are reading, or whether he entreats anxiously and with sincerity. And after a short delay, write an answer. Delay ever stimulates those in love if it lasts only for a short time. But neither do you make yourself too cheap to the youth who entreats, nor yet refuse, with disdainful lips, what he is pressing for. Cause him both to fear and to hope at the same moment, and oft as you refuse him, let hopes more assured and diminished apprehensions arise. Write your words, ye fair, in a legible hand, but of common parlance, and such as are usual. The recognized forms of language are most pleasing. Ah, how oft has the wavering lover been inflamed by a letter, and how oft has uncouth language proved detrimental to a graceful form. But since, although you are without the honors of the fillet of chastity, it is still your care to deceive your husbands, let the skilled hand of a maid, or of a boy, carry the tablets, and don't entrust your pledges to some unknown youth. I myself have seen the fair pale with terror on that account, enduring in their misery servitude to all future time. Perfidious, indeed, is he who retains such pledges, but still in them he has power equal to the lightnings of Aetna. In my opinion, deceit is allowable, for the purpose of repelling deceit, and the laws permit us to take up arms against the armed. One hand should be accustomed to write in numerous styles. Perdition to those through whom this advice must be given by me, nor is it safe to write, except when the wax is quite smoothed over, so that the same tablet may not contain two hands. Let your lover be always styled a female when you write. In your billets let that be she, which really is he. But I wish to turn my attention from trifles to things of more consequence, and with swelling canvas to expand my filling sails. It conduces to good looks to restrain habits of anger. Fair peace becomes human beings, savage fury wild beasts. With fury the features swell, with blood the veins grow black, the eyes flash more wildly than the Gorgonian fires. Pipe, hence avaunt, thou art not of so much worth to me, said Pallas, when she saw her features in the stream. You too, if you were to look at your mirror in the midst of your anger, hardly could anyone distinctly recognize her own countenance, and in no less degree, let not a repulsive haughtiness sit upon your features, by alluring eyes love must be enticed. Believe me, ye fair who know it by experience, I hate immoderate conceit. Full oft do the features in silence contain the germs of hatred. Look at him who looks on you, smile sweetly in return to him who smiles. Does he nod at you? Do you, too, return the sign well understood? When the boy Cupid has made these preludes, laying aside his foils, he takes his sharp arrows from his quiver. I hate the melancholy damsels too. Let Ajax be charmed with Tecmessa, us, a joyous throng, the cheerful woman captivates. Never should I have asked thee, Andromache, nor thee, Tecmessa, that one of you would be my mistress. I seem hardly ably to believe it, though by your fruitfulness I am obliged to believe it, that you could have granted your favors to your husbands, and could, forsooth, that most melancholy woman say to Ajax, my life, and words which are wont to please the men. What forbids me to apply illustrations from great matters to small ones, and not to be standing in awe of the name of a general? To this person, the skillful general has entrusted 100 to be ruled with the twig of vine. To this one, so many cavalry. To that one he has given the standard to defend. Do you, too, consider to what use each of us is suited, and class each one in his assigned position. Let the rich man give his presents, let him that professes the law defend, the eloquent man may often plead the cause of his client. We who compose verses alone let us contribute. This throng before all others is susceptible of love. Far and wide do we herald the praises of the beauty that pleases us. Nemesis has fame, Cynthia, too, has fame, the West and the lands of the East know of Lycoris, and many a one is inquiring who my Corinna is. Besides, all deceit is wanting in the hallowed. Poets and even our art contributes to forming our manners. No ambition influences us, no love of gain, despising the courts, the couch and the shade are the objects of our commendation. But we are easily attracted and are consumed by a lasting heat, and we know how to love with a constancy most enduring. Indeed, we have our feelings softened by the gentle art, and our manners are in conformity with our pursuits. Be kind, ye fair, to the Ionian bards. In them there is inspiration, and the Pierian maids show favor unto them. In us a divinity exists, and we have intercourse with the heavens. From the realms of the skies does that inspiration proceed. 'Tis a crime to look for a present from the learned poets. Ah, wretched me! Of this crime no fair one stands in dread. Still, do act the dissemblers, and at the very first sight do not be ravenous. On seeing your nets, a new lover will stop short. But neither can the rider manage with the same reins the horse which has but lately felt the bridle, and that which is well trained. Nor yet must the same path be trod by you in order to captivate the feelings that are steadied by years and inexperienced youth. The latter is raw, and now for the first time known in the camp of love, who, a tender prey, has reached your chamber. With you alone is he acquainted, to you alone would he ever prove constant. Shun a rival, so long as you alone shall possess him, you will be the conqueror. Both sovereignties and love do not last long with one to share in them. The other, the veteran soldier, will love you gradually and with moderation, and he will put up with much that will not be endured by the novice. He will neither break down your doorposts, nor burn them with raging flames, nor will he fly at the tender cheek of his mistress with his nails. He will neither tear his own clothes, nor yet the clothes of the fair, nor will her torn locks be a cause for grieving. These things befit boys who are heated with youthful years and with passion. The other, with tranquil feelings, will put up with cruel wounds. With slowly consuming fires will he smolder, just like a damp torch, or like the wood that has been cut down upon the mountain ridge. This passion is more sure, the former is short-lived and more bounteous. With speedy hand do you pluck the fruit that passes away. Let all points be surrendered, the gates we have opened to the enemy, and let confidence be placed in this perfidious betrayal. That which is easily conceded, but badly supports a lasting passion. A repulse must now and then be mingled with your joyous dalliance. Let him lie down before your doors. Cruel door, let him exclaim, and let him do many a thing in humble, many in threatening mood. The sweet we cannot endure, with bitter potions we may be refreshed. Full oft does the bark perish, overwhelmed by favoring gales. This it is that does not permit wives to be loved. Husbands have access to them, whenever they please. Shut your door, and let your porter say to you with surly lips, "You cannot come in, desire will seize you as well, thus shut out." Now lay aside the blunted swords, let the battle be fought with sharpened ones, and I doubt not but that I myself shall be aimed at with weapons of my own furnishing. While the lover that has been captured only of late is falling into your toils, let him hope that he alone has admission to your chamber. But soon let him be aware of a rival and a division of the privileges of your favors. Remove these contrivances, and his passion will grow effete. Then does the high-mettled courser run well, the starting place being opened when he has both competitors to pass by and those for him to follow. Harshness rekindles the flame, even if gone out. Myself to wit, I confess it, I do not love unless I am ill-used. Still, the cause for grief should not be too manifest, and in his anxiety he ought to suspect that there is more than what he actually knows. The harsh supervision, too, of some feigned servant should excite him, and the irksome watchfulness of a husband too severe. The pleasure that is enjoyed in safety is the least valued of all. Though you are more at liberty than even ties, still feign apprehensions, whereas you could do it far better by the door, admit him through the window, and on your countenance show the signs of fear. Let the cunning maid rush in and exclaim, "We are undone," and then do you hide the youth in his fright in any spot. Still, an enjoyment without anxiety must be interspersed with his alarms, lest he should not think your favors to be worth so much trouble. But I was about to omit by what methods the cunning husband may be eluded, and how the watchful keeper. Let the wife stand in awe of her husband, let the safe keeping of a wife be allowed. That is proper, that the laws and justice and decency ordain. But for you as well to be watched, whom the lictor's rod has but just set at liberty, who can endure it? Come to my sacred rites, that you may learn how to deceive. Even if as many eyes shall be watching you, as Argus had, if there is only a fixed determination, you will deceive them all. And shall a keeper, forsooth, hinder you from being able to write, when an opportunity is given you for taking the bath. When a female confidant can carry the note you have penned, which her broad girth can conceal in her warm bosom, when she can conceal the paper fastened to her calf, and carry the tender note beneath her sandaled foot. Should the keeper be proof against these contrivances, in place of paper, let your confidant afford her shoulders, and upon her own person let her carry your words. Letters, too, written in new milk are safe and escape the eye. Touch them with powdered coals, and you will read them. The writing, too, which is made with the stalk of wetted flax, will deceive, and the clean surface will bear the secret marks. The care of watching a fair one fell to Acrisius. Still, through his own fault, did she make him a grandsire. What can a keeper do when there are so many theaters in the city? When, eagerly, she is a spectator of the harnessed steeds. When she is sitting in attendance upon the sistra of the Pharian heifer, and at the place where her male friends are forbidden to go. While, too, the good goddess expels the gaze of males from her temples, except any that perchance she bids to come, while, as the keeper watches outside the clothes of the fair, the baths may in safety conceal the lovers who are hiding there. While so often as is requisite, some pretended she friend may be sick, and, ill as she is, may give place for her in her couch. While the false key, too, tells by its name what we are to do, and it is not the door alone that gives the access you require. The watchfulness of the keeper is eluded by plenty of wine, even though the grapes be gathered on the hills of Spain. There are drugs, too, which create deep sleep, and let them close the eyes overpowered by Lethean night. And not amiss does the confidant occupy the troublesome fellow with dalliance to create delay, and in his company spins out the time. What need is there to be teaching stratagems and trifling precepts, when the keeper may be purchased by the smallest present? Believe me, presents influence both men and gods. On gifts being presented, Jupiter himself is appeased. What is the wise man to do when even the fool is gratified with a present? The husband himself, on receiving a present, will be silent. But once only throughout the long year must the keeper be bought. Full oft will he hold out the hand which he has once extended. I complained, I recollect, that new-made friends are to be dreaded. That complaint does not extend to men alone. If you are too trusting, other women will interrupt your pleasures, and this hair of yours will be destined to be hunted down by other persons. Even she, who so obligingly lends her couch and her room, believe me, has not once only been in my company. And do not let too pretty a maid wait upon you. Many a time has she filled her mistress's place for me. Whither in my folly am I led on? Why with bared breast do I strive against the foe, and why myself am I betrayed through information that is my own? The bird does not instruct the fowler in which direction he may be taken, the hind does not teach the hostile hounds how to run. Still, let interest see to itself. My precepts with fidelity will I give. To the Lemnian dames, for my own destruction, will I present the sword. Give reason, and 'tis easy to do so, for us to believe ourselves to be loved. Belief arises readily in those who are anxious for the fulfillment of their desires. Let the fair one eye the youth in a kindly manner. Let her heave sighs from her very heart, and let her inquire why it is he comes so late. Let tears be added, too, and feigned apprehensions about a rival, and with her fingers let her tear her face. Soon will he be thoroughly persuaded one. He will pity you of his own accord, and will say to himself, this woman is consumed by affection for me. Especially, if he shall be well dressed and shall please himself at the looking-glass, he will believe that the goddesses might be touched with love for him. But whoever you are, let an injury disturb you only in a moderate degree. And don't, on hearing of a rival, go out of your mind, and don't at once believe it. How injurious it is at once to believe things, Procris will be no slight proof to you. There is near the empurpled hills of blooming Hymettus a sacred spring, and the ground is soft with the verdant turf. The wood, of no great height, there forms a grove. The strawberry tree overshadows the grass, rosemary, and laurels and swarthy myrtles give their perfume. Neither the box trees with their thick foliage and the slender tamarisks, nor yet the tiny trefoil and the garden pine, are wanting there. Moved by the gentle zephyrs and the balmy air, the leaves of these many kinds and the tops of the grass quiver. Pleasant was this retreat to Cephalus, his servants and his hounds left behind. The youth, when weary, often sat down in this spot. And here he was in the habit of repeating, "Come, gentle Aura, to be received in my bosom, that thou mayst moderate my heat." Some person, maliciously officious, with retentive lips carried the words he had heard to the timid ears of his wife. Procris, when she heard the name of Aura, as though of a rival, fainted away, and with this sudden apprehension she was mute. She turned pale, just as the late leaves become wan, which the coming winter has nipped, the clusters now gathered from the vine, and as the quinces which in their ripeness are bending their boughs, and as the cornels not yet quite fit for food for man. When her senses had returned, she tore her thin garments from off her body with her nails and wounded her guiltless cheeks. And no delay was there. Raving, with disheveled locks, she flew amid the tracks like a bacchanal aroused by the thyrsus. When she had come near the spot, she left her attendants in the valley, and with silent footsteps in her boldness, she herself stealthily entered the grove. What, Procris, were thy feelings, when thus in thy frenzy thou didst he concealed? What the impulse of thy disquieted breast? Each moment, forsooth, wast thou expecting that she would come, whoever Ora might be, and that their criminality would be witnessed with thine eyes. Now dost thou repent of having come, for indeed thou wouldst not wish to detect him, and now thou art glad. Fluctuating affection is tormenting thy breast. There is the spot, and the name, and the informant to bid thee give credence, and the fact that the lover always apprehends that to exist which he dreads. When she beheld the grass beaten down, the impress of his body, her trembling bosom was throbbing with her palpitating heart. And now midday had made the unsubstantial shadows small, and at an equal distance were the evening and the morn. Behold, Cephalus, the offspring of the Selenian god, returns from the woods and sprinkles his glowing face with water of the fountain. In thy anxiety, Procris, art thou lying concealed? Along the grass he lies as wont, and says, Ye gentle zephyrs, and thou Ora, come hither. When the welcome mistake of the name was thus revealed to the sorrowing fair, both her senses and the real color of her face returned. She arose, and the wife, about to rush into the embrace of her husband, by the moving of her body, shook the leaves that were in her way. He, thinking that a wild beast had made the noise, with alacrity snatched up his bow, his arrows were in his right hand. What wretched man art thou about? Tease no wild beast, keep still thy weapons. Ah, wretched me, by thy dart has the fair been pierced. Ah me, she cries aloud, a loving heart hast thou pierced. That spot has ever retained the wound inflicted by Cephalus. Before my time I die, but injured by no rival. This, O earth, will make thee light when I am entombed. Now is my breath departing in the breeze that I had thus suspected. I sink, alas, close my eyes with those dear hands. In his sorrowing bosom he supports the dying body of his spouse, and with his tears he bathes her cruel wounds. Her breath departs, and gradually fleeting from her senseless breast, her breath is received into the mouth of her wretched husband. But let us return to our path. I must deal with my subject undisguised, that my wearied bark may reach its port. You may be waiting, in fact, for me to escort you to the banquet, and may be requesting my advice in this respect as well. Come late, and enter when the lights are brought in. Delay is a friend to passion. A very great stimulant is delay. Even should you be ugly, to the tipsy you will appear charming, and night itself will afford a concealment for your imperfections. Take up your food with your fingers, the method of eating is something, and do not besmear all your face with your dirty hand. And do not first take food at home, but cease to eat a little sooner than you could wish and could have eaten. Had the son of Priam seen Helen greedily devouring, he would have detested her, and he would have said, That prize of mine is an oaf. It is more proper and is more becoming for the fair to drink to excess. Thou dost not, Bacchus, consort amiss with the son of Venus. This too, only so far as the head will bear it, and the senses and the feet will be able to perform their duty, and do not see each object that is single as double. A woman sprawling along and drenched in plenteous wine is a disgusting object. She is worthy to endure the embraces of any kind of fellows. And it is no safe thing when the tables are removed to fall asleep. In sleep many a shocking thing is wont to happen. I feel ashamed to instruct you any further, but genial Dione says, that which shames you is especially my own province. Let each particular then be known unto you, equals. In modus a corpore certos. Sumite, non omnes una figura decet. Quissa faci piarsa signis eris, resupina jacido. Spectenter tergo, quis sua terga placent. Melanian humoris, atalantes crura ferabat. Si bona sunt, hoc sunt accipienda modo. Parva veheter equo, quadirat longissima nunquark. Thebais hectoreo, nupta recedit equo. Strata primat genibus, pollum servis reflexa. Fomina, per longum conspicienda latis. Cui femur est juvenile, carent cui pector menda. Stetver, in obliquo fusa sit ipsa taro. Nec tibi puta crinum, ut filia mater. Solver, edifusis cala reflect commis. Tu quoque, cui rugas uterum lucina notavit. Ut celera versus uter parthus equis. Mil modi veneris, simplex minimique laboris. Cum jacet in dextrum semisupina latis. Sed nec phobe tripods, nec commager ammon. Vira ragais vabis, quam me musa canent. Si qua fids arti, quam longo fessimus usu. Credite, priestabunt carmiua nostra fidem. Sentiat ex immis generum resoluta medalis. Fomina, et ex equo res juvit ilia duos. Nec blandi voces, jucendac murmurus assent. Nec tacent metis improba verba jossis. Tu quoque, cui generis sensum natura negavit. Dulcia mendici gaudia finge sono. In felix, cui torpit hebes locus alle, pula ease. Quo pariter debent fomina verc frui. Tantum, cum lings, ni sis manifesta cavido. Ifisse per modum luminac ipsa fidem. Quod juvit, et voces et annelitus arguit oris. A pudit, arcanas pars habet istenotas. Gaudia post generis qui possit munus amentum. Ipsa suas nollet pondus haber preces, equals. And admit not the light in your chamber with the windows wide open. Many blemishes of your person more becomingly lie concealed. My pastime draws to a close. 'Tis time to descend from the swans that have borne my yoke upon their necks. As once the youths did, so now the fair, as my audience may inscribe, Naso was our preceptor, upon their spoils. Footnotes Book 1. Footnote 701, for stripes for. 16. Statius in the Thebaid mentions the strictness of the discipline of Chiron. See the Amores IL, Roman 13, 1, 18. Footnote 702, be ye a farver. 31. He quotes this and the following line in the Tristia, Book 2 1 to show that it was not his intention by his precepts to inculcate breaches of chastity among the Roman matrons. See the note to the passage, and to the Fasti, Book 2, 130. The vita, or fillet, was worn solely by women of pure character. Footnote 703, the Tawny Indians ver. 53. Herodotus considers the Ethiopians to be Indians. According to some, the father of Andromeda was king of Ethiopia, but she is more frequently represented as a native of Joppa, on the coast of Syria. Footnote 704, as many stars as ver. 59. Heinsius considers this and the next line to be spurious. Footnote 705, wish a riper fair ver. 63. Juvenes, applied to a female, would mean something more than a mere girl. Juventus was that age in which a person was in his best years, from about 20 to 40. Footnote 706, Pompey's portico ver. 67. He alludes to the portico which had been erected by Pompey at Rome and was shaded by plane trees and refreshed by fountains. The porticos were walks covered with roofs, supported by columns. They were sometimes attached to other buildings, and sometimes were independent of any other edifice. They were much resorted to by those who wished to take exercise without exposure to the heat of the sun. The porticos of the temples were originally intended for the resort of persons who took part in the rites performed there. Lawsuits were sometimes conducted in the porticos of Rome, and goods were sold there. Footnote 707, the Lion of Hercules, Ilver. 68. The Nemean lion, which formed the constellation Leo in the zodiac. Footnote 708, where the mother ver. 69. He alludes to the theater and portico which Augustus built, the former of which received the name of his nephew Marcellus, the latter of his sister Octavia, the mother of Marcellus. After the death of Marcellus, Octavia added a public library to this portico at her own expense. Here there were valuable paintings of Minerva, Philip, and Alexander, and Hercules on Mount Ida. Some suppose that the Temple of Concord, built by Livia and mentioned in the Fasti, is here referred to. Footnote 709, the portico of Livia, ver. 72. The portico of Livia was near the street called Subura. This portico is also mentioned in the Fasti. We learn from Strabo that it was near the Via Sacra, or Sacred Street. Footnote 710, granddaughters of Belus, ver. 73. This was the portico of the Danaids in the Temple of Apollo. It is referred to in the second elegy of the second book of the Amores. Footnote 711, bewailed by Venus ver. 75. He alludes to the Temple of Venus at Rome, which, according to Juvenal, was notorious as the scene of intrigues and disgraceful irregularities. It was a custom of the Romans, borrowed from the Assyrians, to lament Adonis in the Temple of Venus. See the 10th book of the Metamorphoses. This worship of the Assyrians is mentioned by the prophet Ezekiel, chapter Roman 8, verse 13, women weeping for Thhamyras. Footnote 712. The Jew of Syria ver. 76. He alludes to the rites performed in the synagogues of the Jews of Rome, on the Sabbath, to which numbers or females were attracted, probably by the music. There were great numbers of Jews at Rome in the reign of Augustus who were allowed to follow their own worship, according to the law of Moses. The Roman females visiting the synagogues, assignations, and gross irregularities became the consequence. Tiberius withdrew this privilege from the Jews and ordered the priests' vestments and ornaments to be burnt. This line is thus rendered in Dryden's version. Nor shun the Jewish walk, where the fowl drove. On Sabbaths rest from everything but love. This wretched paraphrase is excused by the following very illiberal note. If this version seems to bear a little hard on the ancient Jews, it does not at all wrong the modern. Footnote 713, many a woman ver. 78, Io or Isis was debauched by Jupiter. Martial and Juvenal speak of the irregularities practiced on these occasions. Footnote 714, where the erection ver. 81. He refers to the Forum of Caesar and the Temple of Venus, which was built by Julius Caesar after the Battle of Pharsalia. Footnote 715, of Appius, ver. 82. He alludes to the aqueduct which had been constructed by the censor Appius. This passed into the city through the Latin Gate and discharged itself near the spot where the Temple of Venus was built. Footnote 716, shooting stream ver. 82. He alludes to the violence with which the water was discharged by the pipes of the aqueduct into the reservoir. Footnote 717, which is adjoining ver. 87. The Temple of Venus was near the Forum. Footnote 718, ravished Sabine fair ver. 102 see the Fasti, Book 3, 1, 199. Footnote 719, neither did curtains ver. 103. The villa, here referred to, may mean either the siparia, or curtains of the theaters, or the awnings which were hung over them. See the note on the siparia of the theaters, referred to in the 3rd book of the Metamorphoses, L. 111. The velaria, or awnings, were stretched over the whole space of the theaters to protect the spectators from the sun and rain. Footnote 720, marble theater ver. 103. The theaters of Pompey and Scaurus were of marble. Footnote 721, nor was the stage ver. 104. The pulpita was that part of the stage where the actors stood who spoke. It was elevated above the orchestra, where the chorus and dancers and musicians were placed. Footnote 722, upon the maidens ver. 116. Some writers say that only 30 women were carried off. Valerius Antius made the number 427, and Plutarch mentions a statement that it was 600. Footnote 723, the partition ver. 141. See the Amores, Book 3, L. Roman 2, 119. Footnote 724, let the usual subjects ver. 144. Publica verba means the compliments of the day, and the topics suited to the occasion. Footnote 725, statues of ivory ver. 149. For an account of this procession, see the Amores, Book 3, L. Roman 2, 143. Footnote 728, knee against it ver. 158. See 124 of the same elegy. Footnote 729, with his ready hand ver. 160. As the seats of the circus were hard, the women often made use of a cushion to sit upon, those who were not so fortunate as to get a front seat, and so rest their feet in the railings opposite. See the 2nd elegy of the 3rd book of the Amores, 164, and the note, used a footstool, scamnum, which is mentioned here in the 162nd line, on which they rested their feet. Footnote 730, its sad duties ver. 164. Juvenal tells us that gladiatorial spectacles were sometimes exhibited in the Forum. Footnote 731, himself receives a wound ver. 166. The word habit, here used, is borrowed from the usage at the gladiatorial games. When a gladiator was wounded, the people called aloud habit, or hoc habit, and the one who was vanquished lowered his arms in token of submission. If the people chose that he should be saved, they pressed down their thumbs, but they turned them up if they desired that he should be killed. Footnote 732, asking for the racing list ver. 167. The libellus, here mentioned, was the list of the horses, with their names and colors and those of the drivers. It served the same purpose as the race cards on our courses. Footnote 733, having deposited the stake ver. 168. When a bet was made, the parties betting gave to each other a pledge, pignus, in the shape of some trinket, such as a ring. When the bet was completed, they touched hands. Footnote 734, when of late ver. 171. He speaks of a naumatia, or mimic sea fight, which had been lately exhibited at Rome by Augustus in commemoration of the Battle of Actium. As Antony had collected his forces from the east and all parts of Greece, his ships are alluded to as the Persian and Cecropian or Athenian ships. The term, naumatia, was applied both to the representation of a sea fight and to the place where it was given. They were sometimes exhibited in the circus or amphitheater, the water being introduced underground, but more generally in spots constructed for the purpose. The first was shown by Julius Caesar, who caused a lake to be dug for the purpose in a part of the Campus Martius, which Suetonius calls the Lesser Cota. This was filled up by Augustus, who dug a lake near the Tiber for the same purpose, to which, probably, reference is here made. Footnote 735, introduced ver. 172, induxit. By the use of this word, it would seem that Augustus Caesar introduced the ships, probably from the river Tiber, into the lake. Footnote 736, c. Caesar prepares ver. 177. Augustus sent his grandson, Caius, the son of his daughter Julia and Agrippa, to head an expedition against Phrates, the king of the Parthians, the conquerors of Crassus. From this expedition he did not live to return, but perished in battle. Footnote 737, Crassi rejoice ver. 180. See the Fasti, Book 5 1, 583-8 with the note. Also Book 6 1 465. Footnote 738, of the gods ver. 183. In a spirit of adulation, he deifies Caius Caesar and his brother Lucius. Footnote 739, first of the youths ver. 194. The princeps juvenum had the honor of riding first in the review of the equestrian ranks by the emperor. See the Tristia, Book 2 190. Caius did not live to fulfill this prophecy, as he was slain through the perfidy of the Parthian general. Footnote 740, since thou hast brothers ver. 195. He alludes probably to Lucius Caesar, the other grandson of Augustus, and Marcus Agrippa, the husband of Julia, the daughter of Augustus. Footnote 741, hast a sire ver. 196. He had been adopted by Augustus. What rivers are born ver. 220. See the 20th line of the second elegy, Book 4, of the Tristia, perfectly well ver. 222. See a similar passage in the Tristia, Book 4, L. Roman 2, 124. Footnote 742, the Euphrates ver. 223. The rivers were generally personified by the ancients as being crowned with reeds. Footnote 743, the one whose ver. 224. The young man is supposed to be addressing the damsel in these words. Footnote 744, from Danae ver. 225. He means that Persia was so called from Perses, the son of Andromeda, by Perseus, the son of Danae. It is more generally thought to have been so called from a word signifying a horse. Achaemenes was one of the ancient kings of Persia. Footnote 745, still it is fatal ver. 236. Solit, is wont, is certainly a pre-narrative reading here to Nauset. Footnote 746, deceiving lamp ver. 245. This is as much as to remind him of the adage that women and linen look best by candlelight. Footnote 747, why mention Baiae ver. 255. Baiae was a town on the seashore near Naples, famous for its hot baths. It was delightfully situate, and here Pompey, Caesar, and many of the wealthy Romans had country seats. Seneca and Propertius refer to it as famous for its debaucheries, and it was much frequented by persons of loose character. It was the custom at Baiae, in the summertime, for both sexes to cruise about the shore in boats of various colors, both in the daytime and at night, with sumptuous feasts and bands of music on board. Footnote 748, Hostel Handver, 260. See the Fasti, Book 3, 263. He means that the Arician grove was much resorted to by those engaged in courtship tad intrigues. Footnote 749, Born upon unequal wheelsver, 264. He alludes to Thalia, the muse who inspires him, preferring the unequal or hexameter and pentameter measure of elegiac verse. Footnote 752, untruthful as it is ver 298. The Cretans were universally noted in ancient times for their disregard for truth. St. Paul, in his epistle to Titus, ch. I ver 12 says, quoting from the Cretan poet Epimenides, one of themselves, even a prophet of their own, said, "The Cretans are always liars, evil beasts, slow bellies." This witness is true. Footnote 753, by a bull ver. 302. See this story explained in the translation of the Metamorphoses, p. 70. Footnote 754, the sire ver. 326. This was the Minotaur. See the Metamorphoses, Book 8. Footnote 755. If the Cretan dame, ver. 327. This was Arope, the wife of Atreus, who slew the children of his brother Thyestes and set them on table before their father. Footnote 756. Who spoiled ver. 331. He falls into his usual mistake of confounding Scylla, the daughter of Nissus, with the daughter of Phorcys. Footnote 757. The flames ver. 335. See the Metamorphoses, Book 7, 1, 391, and the Epistle of Medea to Jason. Footnote 758. The son of Amintor, ver. 337. Phoenix, the son of Amintor, according to Homer, became blind in his latter years. See the note to the 307th line of the 8th book of the Metamorphoses. Footnote 759. Of thy guiltless sons, ver. 339. Phineus was a king of Arcadia, or, according to some, of Thrace or Paphlagonia. His wife, Cleopatra, being dead or divorced, he married a Scythian named Harpalus, at whose suggestion he put out the eyes of his sons by Cleopatra. He was persecuted by the Harpies as a punishment. Footnote 760. What is one's own ver? 348. Sues seems preferable here to suos. Footnote 761. The crop ver. 349. These lines are referred to by Juvenal in the 14th satire, 1.143. Footnote 762. Your access easy ver. 352. See his address to Nape in the Amores, Book 1, L. Roman 2. Sypassus seems to have been a choice specimen of this class. See the Amores, Book 2, L. Roman 8. Footnote 763. Pay him in return, ver. 370. This seems to mean, I do not think you can make sufficient return for his ardent affection, referring to the lover. Some of the commentators think that it signifies a hint from the servant that as her mistress's husband has offended her by his infidelities, she ought to repay him in his own coin. Footnote 764 is of use ver. 375. This abominable notion seems to have been acted upon by the poet himself. See the Amores, Book 2, L. Roman 8. Footnote 765. Her birthday ver. 405. See the Amores, Book 1, L. Roman 8, 194. Footnote 766. Whether the calends ver. 405. The matronalia were celebrated on the first day of the calends of March. It was usual on that day for husbands to make presents to their wives and lovers to the objects of their affection. The calends of March preceded April, which month was sacred to Venus. See the Fasti, Book 3, 170. Footnote 767. The wealth of kings ver. 408. It was the custom to bring the spoils of the enemy, or the most curious portions of it, to Rome, where it was exposed to view in the circus and the theaters. Ovid tells his readers that they must not think that the ladies can give them any of their leisure on such occasions, as, being so much engaged with the sights, they will have no time for love-making. Footnote 769. tearful alia, ver. 413. The 16th of July, the day on which the Romans were defeated by the Gauls at the Alia, was deemed unlucky, and no business was transacted on it. Footnote 770, a day not suited for ver. 415. The Jews are here alluded to, and he refers to their Sabbath. How some commentators can have dreamed that the feast of the Saturnalia is referred to, it is hard to say. Footnote 771, great must be ver. 417. The meaning is, be careful not to make your first advances on the birthday of your mistress, as that is the time for making presents, and you will certainly be out of pocket. See the Amores, Book 1, L. Roman 8, 194 and the note. Footnote 772, the loosely clad peddler ver. 421. Insteader was properly a person who sold wares and kept a taberna or shop on account of another. Sometimes free persons, but more frequently slaves, were insteaders. Footnote 773, a promissory note ver. 428. Syngraphus / or syngrapha was a bill, bond, or promissory note, which was most probably the kind of writing that the peddler would here require. It may possibly mean a check upon his bankers, the Argentarii of Rome. Footnote 774, not to have learned ver. 428. The reading here seems to be non-didacis juvat, for it is not to your advantage that you have learned to write. The other reading, ni didacis juvit, may be rendered. Perhaps it may be no advantage that you have learned to write. Footnote 775, birthday cake ver. 429. See the Amores, Book 1, L. Roman 8, 194. Footnote 776, the jewel ver. 432. For an account of the earrings of the ancients, see the notes to the Metamorphoses, Book 10, 116. Footnote 777, should you give her ver. 447. The meaning of this and the following line is very obscure, so much so that Berman is in doubt on the subject. It, however, seems to be that it is not discreet, on first acquaintance, to give presents, as the damsel may then have a reason for peremptorily giving you up. She carries off your gift and gives no favor in return. Footnote 778, upon an apple ver. 457, see the 20th and 21st epistles in the present volume. Footnote 779, extend their hands ver. 462. This figure is taken from the gladiatorial games, where the conquered extended their hands in token of submission. Footnote 780, ring of iron ver. 473. The rings worn by the lower classes were of iron. Footnote 781, under some of the columns 1 ver. 490. The learned Heinsius absolutely thinks that columnas here means milestones. It is pretty clear that Ovid alludes to the columns of the portico, and he seems to say that the attentive lover, when he sees the damsel at some distance before him, is not to hesitate to escape the crowd by going into the open space outside of the columns, and then running on for the purpose of overtaking her. See the Tristia, Book 3, L. Roman 3, where he makes mention of the columns in the portico of the Danaids. Footnote 782, actor is dancing ver. 501. See the Tristia, Book 2, I. 497. Footnote 783, with the irons ver. 505. See the Amores, Book 1, L. Roman 14, 125 and the note. The effeminate among the Romans were very fond of having their hair in curls. Footnote 784, with the rough pumice ver. 506. Pliny the Elder mentions pumice stone as a substance used by women in washing their bodies, and now by men as well. Persius, in his 4th satire, inveighs against this effeminate practice. Footnote 785, bid those do this ver. 507. He alludes to the Galli, the eunuch priests of Cybele. Footnote 786, Hippolytus ver. 511. Phaedra, in her epistle, alludes to his neglect of dress as one of the merits of Hippolytus. Footnote 787, Plain of Mars, ver. 513. The Roman youth practiced wrestling and other athletic exercises, on the campus Martius being often stripped naked, or nearly so. The oil, combined with heat, would tend to bronze the skin. Footnote 788, not be clammy ver. 515. Probably this is the meaning of lingua ni rigat, although Nissard's French translation has it, let your tongue have no roughness. Dryden's translation is, of course, of no assistance, as it carefully avoids all the difficult passages. Footnote 789, the father of the flockver. 522. He alludes to the rank smell to the armpits, which the Romans called by the name hercus, a goat, from a supposed similarity to the strong smell of that animal. Footnote 790, awaking from her sleepver. 529. See the Epistle of Ariadne to Theseus. Footnote 791, Mimilonian females ver. 541. It is a matter of doubt why the Bacchanalian women were called Mimilonides. According to some, they are so called from Mimas, a mountain of Asia Minor, where the rites of Bacchus were celebrated. Suidas says that they are so called from imitation, because they imitated the actions of men. Bochart thinks that the word is of Hebrew origin, and that they receive their name from Memilarin, garrulous or noisy, or else from mammal, a wine press. Footnote 792, drunken old man ver. 543. See the adventure of Silenus in the beginning of Book 11, of the Metamorphoses, and in the Fasti, Book 3 1742. He seems to have been always getting into trouble. Footnote 793, Cretan diadem ver. 558. See the Fasti, Book 3 516. Footnote 794, Evi ver. 563. In the combat with the giants, Jupiter is said, when one of them was slain by Bacchus, to have exclaimed, "Well done, son," whence the exclamation Evi was said to have originated. See the Metamorphoses, Book 4 111 and 15, and the note. Footnote 795, on the table ver. 572. See the Epistle of Paris to Helen and the Amores, Book 1, L. Roman 4, 120 and Book 2, L. V 117 and the notes. Footnote 796, from the side ver. 576. See the Amores, Book 1, L. Roman 4, 1, 32. Footnote 797, touched with her fingers ver. 577. The ancients are supposed not to have used at meals any implement such as a knife or fork, but merely to have used the fingers only, except in eating soups or other liquids or jellies, when they employed spoons, which were denoted by the names cochlear and ligula. At meals, the Greeks wiped their fingers on pieces of bread. The Romans washed them with water and dried them on napkins handed round by the slaves. Footnote 798, are drinking by lot ver. 581. The mod imperator, or master of the banquet, was often chosen by lot by the guests, and it was his province to prescribe how much each person should drink. Lots were also thrown, by means of the dice, to show in what order each person was to drink. This passage will show the falsity of his plea in the second book of the Tristia, addressed to Augustus, where he says that it was not his intention to address the married women of Rome, but only those who did not wear the viti and the instita, the badges of chastity. Footnote 799. Agent attends even too much for. 587. His meaning seems to be that in the same way as the agent does more than attend to the injunctions of his principal and puts himself in a position to profit by his office, so is the innamorato, through the confidence of the husband reposed in him, to make a profit that has never been anticipated. Footnote 801, Eurytion ver. 593, at the nuptials of Pirithous and Hippodamia. See the Metamorphoses, Book 12, 1-220, where he is called Eurytus. Footnote 802, stealing up ver. 605. This piece of impudence he professes to practice in the Amores, Book 1, L. Roman 4, L. 56. Footnote 803, bird of Juno ver. 627. This fact in natural history was probably known only to Ovid, or the peacocks of the present day may be less vain than the Roman ones. See the Metamorphoses, Book 1 723. Footnote 804, that there should be gods ver. 637. This was the avowed opinion of some of the philosophers and atheists of antiquity. We learn from Tertullian that Diogenes, being asked if the gods exist, answered that he did not know anything about it, but that they ought to exist. The doctrine of the Epicureans was that the gods lived a happy and easy life, were not susceptible of anger, and did not trouble themselves about men. Footnote 805 went to Busiris, ver. 649. See the Tristia, Book 3, L. Zi 139, where the story of Phalaris is also referred to. Thrasias was the brother of Pygmalion and was justly punished by Busiris for his cruel suggestion. Footnote 806. Phoebe suffered ver. 679. See the story of the rape of Phoebe by Castor and Pollux in the Fasti, Book 5 1699. Footnote 807. Work baskets ver. 693. See the note to the 73rd line of the 9th epistle. Footnote 808. Heroines of olden times ver. 713. Such as Danae, Europa, Cyril, Alcmena, Io, Callisto, Antiope, Maia, Electra, and others. Footnote 809. Chaplet of Pallas ver. 727. A crown of olive was presented to the victors in the athletic exercises at the Olympic Games. Footnote 810. Love for Lyris, ver. 731. If Lyris here is a female name, it is not known who she was. Footnote 811. Daphnis ver. 732. He was a Sicilian, the son of Mercury, and the inventor of bucolic poetry. Footnote 812. Pylades, ver. 745. Hermione was the wife of Orestes, the friend of Pylades. Footnote 813. With a dart ver. 763. It appears by this that it was the custom to take fish by striking them with a javelin salmon airfortimes caught in a similar manner at the present day. Footnotes Book 2. Footnote 901. Sing, Iopine, ver. 1. This was the usual cry of the hunters, who thus addressed Apollo, the god of the chase, when the prey had been captured the toils. See the Metamorphoses, Book 4 1513. Footnote 902. Amicly, ver. 5. A town of Laconia. See the Metamorphoses, Book 10, 219 and the note. Footnote 903. Aretover. 16. He addresses himself to this muse, as her name was derived from the Greek love. It has been suggested that he had another reason for addressing her, as she was thought to take pleasure in warfare, a state which sometimes, by way of variety, exists between lovers. Footnote 904. A bold pathver. 22. This story is again related in the 8th book of the Metamorphoses. Footnote 905. Like Orsver, 45. He aptly compares the arrangement of the main feathers of a wing to a row of oars. Footnote 906. Orion, ver. 56. So in the Metamorphoses, Book 5, 206, he says to his son Icarus, "Fly between both, and I bid thee neither to look at boots, nor Hellas, nor the drawn sword of Orion." Footnote 907. Is angling ver. 77. There is a similar passage in the Metamorphoses, 216. Footnote 908. The clarion god ver. 80. See the Fasti, Book 1 120 and the note. Footnote 909. And calumny, ver. 81. These pieces are mentioned in the corresponding passages in the Metamorphoses, Book 8 222. Footnote 910. Astypolia, ver. 82. This was an isle in the group of the Sporades between Crete and the Cyclades. It contained but one city and was long and narrow and of rugged appearance. Footnote 911. The young horse ver. 100. See the Amoves, Book 1, L. Roman 818 and the note. Footnote 912. The Marcian spells ver. 102. The Nenia was a mournful dirge or chaunt uttered by the sorcerer in his incantations. On the Marci, see the 6th book of the Fasti, 142, and the note to the passage. Footnote 913. Causing paleness ver. 105. Philters were noxious potions, made of venomous or stimulating ingredients, prescribed as a means of gaining the affections of the person to whom they were administered. Footnote 914. Nairis, ver. 109. See the Pontic Epistles, Book 4, Ep. Roman 13, 116 and the note to the passage. Footnote 916. Ocean goddesses ver. 124. Calypso was really the only sea goddess that was enamored of Ulysses. Circe was not a sea goddess. Footnote 917, Blood of Dalan, ver. 135. See the Metamorphoses, Book 13. Line 244. Footnote 919, the Chaonian bird, ver. 150. Chaonia was a district of Epirus, said to have been so called from Chaon, a Trojan. Dodona was in Epirus, and in its forests were said to be doves that had the gift of prophecy. See the translation of the Metamorphoses, pp. 467-8. Footnote 920, Resort to law, ver. 151. He means to say, let man and wife be always thinking about resorting to law to procure a divorce. Footnote 921, one gave verses, ver. 166, he intends a pun here. Verbadere is to deceive, but literally it means to give words. See the Amores, Book 1, L. Roman 8, 157. Footnote 922, Atalanta of Non-Acris, ver. 185. See the Amores, Book 3, L. Roman 2, 29 and the note. Footnote 923, Bow of Hilcius, ver. 191. Hylius and Rhecus were centaurs who were pierced by Atalanta with her arrows for making an attempt on her chastity. He alludes to the bow of Cupid in the next line. Footnote 924, the ivory cubes, ver. 203. He alludes to throws of the tali and tessera, which were different kinds of dice. See the note to 1 footnote 471 of the second book of the Tristia. In this line he seems to mean the tessera, which were similar to our dice, while the tali, which he next mentions, had only 4 flat surfaces, being made in imitation of the knuckle bones of animals and having 2 sides uneven and rounded. The dice were thrown on a table, made for the purpose, with an elevated rim. Some throws, like our doublets, are supposed to have counted for more than the number turned up. The most fortunate throw was called Venus, or Venerius Jactus. It is thought to have consisted of a combination, making 14, the dice presenting different numbers. Games with dice were only sanctioned by law as a pastime during meals. Footnote 925, Make bad moves, ver. 204. Dare jacta means to move the throws, in allusion to the game of duodecim scripta, or 12 points, which was played with counters moved according to the throws of the dice, probably in a manner not unlike our game of backgammon. The hoard was marked with 12 lines on which the pieces moved. Footnote 926, or if you are throwing, ver. 205. By the use of the word su, or, we must suppose that he has, under the word numeri, alluded to the game with the tesserae, or 6-sided dice. Footnote 927, the game that imitates, ver. 207. He here alludes to the ludus latrincularum, literally, the game of theft, which is supposed to have been somewhat similar to our chess. He refers to its name in the words, latricinii sub imagine. The game was supposed to imitate the furtive stratagems of warfare. Hence the men, which were usually styled calculi, were also called by the name of latrones, latrunculi, millets, bellators, thieves, little thieves, soldiers, warriors. As we see by the next line, they were usually made of glass, though sometimes more costly materials were employed. The skill of this game consisted either in taking the pieces of the adversary or rendering them unable to move. The first was done when the adversary's piece was brought by the other between 2 of his own. See the Tristia, Book 2, 1.477. The second took place when the pieces were legati or ad incedas redacti, brought upon the last line and unable to move. White and red are supposed to have been the color of the men. This game was much played by the Roman ladies and nobles. Footnote 928, hold the screen, ver. 209. The ancients used umbracula, or screens against the weather resembling our umbrellas, which the Greeks called. They were used generally for the same purposes as our parasols, a protection against the heat of the sun. They seem not to have been in general carried by the ladies themselves, but by female slaves who held them over their mistresses. See the Fasti, Book 2, 209. These screens, or umbrellas, were much used by the Roman ladies in the amphitheater, to protect them from sun and rain, when the velarium, or awning, was not extended. Footnote 929, Tasteful couch, ver. 211. This was probably the triclinium on which they reposed at meals. The shoes were taken off before reclining on it. Female slaves did this office for the ladies and males for the men. Footnote 930, Looking glass, ver. 216. These were generally held by female slaves when used by their mistresses. See the Metamorphoses, Book 4, 1349, and the note. Footnote 931, held the work basket for. 219. Hercules, who wiled the serpents sent by Juno, is reproached for doing this by Deianira in her epistle. Footnote 932, as though a servant for. 228. He is to be ready if his mistress goes to a party to act the part of the slave who is called adversator, whose duty it was to escort his master home in the evening if it was dark with a lighted torch. Footnote 933, a vehicle ver 230. Rhoda, a wheel, is, by synecdoche, used to signify a vehicle. Footnote 934, Cynthius, ver. 240. See the note to line 51 of the Epistle from Enon to Paris. Footnote 935, through the open roof ver. 245. He gives a somewhat hazardous piece of advice here, as he instructs him to obtain admission by climbing up the wall and getting in at the skylight, which extended over the atrium, or court, a room which occupied the middle of the house. The Roman houses had, in general, but one story over the ground floor. Footnote 936, the high window ver. 246. This passage may be illustrated by the note to 1, 752 of Book 14 of the Metamorphoses. Footnote 937, day on which ver. 257. He alluded to a festival celebrated by the servants on the Capertine Nones, the 7th of July, when they sacrificed to Juno Capertina. Macrobius says that the servants sacrificed to Juno under a wild fig tree, called caprificus, in memory of the service done by the female slaves in exposing themselves to the lust-aught the enemy for the public welfare. The Gauls being driven from the city, the neighboring nations chose the dictator of the Footnotes for their chief, and marching to Rome demanded of the Senate that if they would save their city, they should send out to them their wives and daughters. The Senate, knowing their own weakness, were much perplexed, when a handmaid named Tutela, or Philotes, offered with some others to go out to the enemy in disguise. Being, accordingly, dressed like free women, they repaired in tears to the camp of the enemy. They soon induced their new acquaintances to drink, on the pretense that they were bound to consider the day as a festival, and when intoxicated, a signal was given from a fig tree near that the Romans should fall on them. The camp of the enemy was assailed, and most of them were slain. In return for their service, the female slaves were made free and received marriage portion at the public expense. Another account, agreeing with the present passage, says that the Gauls were the enemy who made the demand, and that Ritana was the name of the female slave. Footnote 938, the lower classes ver. 259. Witness his own appeals in the Amores to Nape, Cypassus, Bagus, and the porter. Footnote 939, in the Sacred Street, ver. 266. Presents of game and trout very often follow a similar devolution at the present day. Footnote 940, Amaryllis was so fond of ver. 267. He alludes to a line of Virgil, which doubtless was then well known to all persons of education. It occurs in the Eclogues, Castaneasque nooses, me quas Amaryllis amabat. Chestnuts too, which my Amaryllis was so fond of. In the next line, he hints that the damsels of his day were too greedy to be satisfied with chestnuts only. Footnote 941, thrush and a pigeon ver. 269. Probably live birds of the kind are here alluded to. Pliny tells us that they were trained to imitate the human voice. Thrushes were much esteemed as a delicacy for the table. They were sold tied up in clusters, in the shape of a crown. Footnote 942, by these means ver. 271. He alludes to those who continued to slip into dead men's shoes by making trifling presents of niceties. Juvenal inveighs against this practice. Footnote 943, poetry does not ver. 274. See the remarks of Dipses in the Amores, Book 1, L. Roman 8, 157. Footnote 945, Tyrian Huver, 297. See the Fasti, Book 2, 107, and the note. Footnote 946, of Cosver, 298. See the Epistles of Sabinus, Ep. Roman 3, 1, 45, and the note. Footnote 947, Address of Feltver, 300. Gausape, Gausapa or gausapum was a kind of thick woolly cloth which had a long nap on one side. It was used to cover tables and beds and as a protection against wind and rain. It was worn both by males and females and came into use among the Romans about the time of Augustus. Footnote 948. You are setting me on fire, ver. 301. Bermanu deservedly censures the explanation of moves incendia, given by Crispinus, the Delphin editor, Vous mourrez de chaud, you will die of heat, applying the observation to the lady, and not, figuratively, to the feelings of her lover. Footnote 949. Her very embraces, ver. 308. The common reading of this line is clearly corrupt. Probably the reading is the one here adopted, et undat gaudia voce proba. Footnote 950. What advice, ver. 368. These attempts at argument are exhausted by Paris in his epistle to Helen. Footnote 952. Stinging nettle, ver. 417. Pliny prescribes nettle seed as a stimulating medicine mixed with linseed, hyssop, and pepper. Footnote 953. White onion, ver. 421. The onions of Megara are praised by Cato, the agricultural writer. Footnote 955. At first, ver. 467. See the beginning of the first book of the Metamorphoses. Footnote 956. Unclean mate, ver. 486. He alludes to the strong smell of the he-goat. Footnote 957. Machion, ver. 491. He was a famous physician, son of Aesculapius, and was slain in the Trojan War. See the Tristia, Book 5, L. Roman 6, 111. Footnote 958. He came, ver. 496. Adest seems a preferable reading to agit. Footnote 959. To know himself, ver. 600. Know thyself was a saying of Chilo, the Lacedaemonian, one of the wise men of Greece. This maxim was also inscribed in gold letters in the temple of Apollo at Delphi. Too much of nothing was a second maxim there inscribed, and a third was, misery is the consequence of debt and discord. Footnote 960. Drinks with elegance, ver. 506. It is hard to say what art in drinking is here alluded to, whether a graceful air in holding the cup or the ability of drinking much without showing any signs of inebriety. Let the old woman come, ver. 329. In sickness, it was the custom to purify the bed and chamber of the patient with sulfur and eggs. It seems also to have been done when the patient was pining through unrequited love. Apuleius mentions a purification by the priest of Isis, who uses eggs and sulfur while holding a torch and repeating a prayer. The nurse of the patient seems here to be directed to perform the ceremony. Footnote 961. The Fasti, Book 2, 119, and Book 4, 1728. From a passage of Juvenal, we find that it was a common practice to purify with eggs and sulfur in the month of September on Athos, ver. 517. See the Metamorphoses, Book 2, 217, and the note. Footnote 962, on Hybla, ver. 517. See the Tristia, Book 5, L. Roman 13, 1, 22. Footnote 963. Off your head, ver. 528. Iphis, in the 14th book of the Metamorphoses, 1732, raises his eyes to the doorposts of his mistress, so often adorned by him with wreaths. Footnote 964. The senses, ver. 532. He seems to believe, with Nixon Danilos, in the existence of a sixth sense. Footnote 965. Of mighty Jove, ver. 540. He alludes to the triumphal procession to the Capitol. Footnote 966. Gentle sleep, ver. 546. See the Amores, Book 3, L.I. 1, 51. He means to say that husbands give a certain latitude to their wives who do not fail to improve upon it. Footnote 967. Own husband, ver. 551. See the Amores, Book 1, L. Roman 4, 1, 38. Footnote 968. Other men visit, ver. 554. Viri seems to be a better reading than viro. Footnote 969. Mars and Venus, ver. 562. See the Metamorphoses, Book 4, 173. Footnote 970. Says, laughing, ver. 585. See a similar passage in the Metamorphoses, Book 4, 187. Footnote 971, for Thrasfer, 588. He was much venerated by the warlike Thracians. Footnote 972, Paphos, ver. 588. See the Metamorphoses, Book 10, 298. Footnote 973, fire and water renderver. 598. Among the Romans, when the bride reached her husband's house, he received her with fire and water, which it was the custom for her to touch. This is, by some, supposed to have been symbolical of purification, or it was an expression of welcome, as the interdiction of fire and water was the formula for banishment. Footnote 974, my Sally's ver. 600. See Book 51, 31 and the note. See also the Fasti, Book 4, 1866 and the note. Footnote 975, the rites of Ceres ver. 601. He alludes to the mysterious rites of Ceres in the island of Samothrace. Footnote 976, not enclosed in chests ver. 609. Certain chests were carried in the procession at the festival of Ceres, the contents of which, if there were any, was a mystery to the uninitiated. Footnote 977, the left hand ver. 614. This is the attitude of the Venus de Medicis. Footnote 978, at a heavy price ver. 626. Men spend their money on debauchery only for the pleasure of talking of it. Footnote 979, waving wings ver. 644. He refers to Perseus admiring the swarthy Andromeda. Footnote 980, of larger stature ver. 645. She was remarkable for her height. Footnote 981, green bark ver. 639. He speaks of the slip engrafted in the stalk. Footnote 982, what consulship ver. 663. The age of persons was reckoned by naming the consulship in which they were born, the period of which was known by reference to the Fasti consulars. See the introduction to the Fasti. Footnote 983, rigid censor ver. 664. It was the duty of the censor to make inquiries into the age of all individuals. Footnote 984, best years ver. 666. Even in those days, it was considered ungallant to make too scrutinizing inquiries into the years of ladies of a certain age. Footnote 985, kind of warfare ver. 674. See the Amores, Book 1, L. Roman 9, 1. Footnote 986, besides in these ver. 675, in reference to females of a more advanced age. Footnote 987, 7 times 5 years ver. 694. He probably means in this passage a lustrum of 5 years. Berman justly observes that cedo, quickly or soon, can hardly be the proper reading as it seems to contradict the meaning of the context. He suggests nisi meaning but or only. See the Fasti, Book 3, 166 and the note, also the Tristia, Book 4, L. Roman 16, 178. Footnote 988, stored up in the Times ver. 696. He uses this metaphorical expression to signify that he admires females when of a ripe and mature age. See the Amores, Book 2, L. v. 154 and the note. Footnote 989, the shooting grass dot ver. 698. In Nissard's translation, the words Prada novella are rendered El herb nouvellement coupé, the grass newly cut. This is not the meaning of the passage. He intends to say that the grass just shooting up is apt to cut or prick the naked foot. Footnote 990, Hermione, ver. 699. She was the daughter of Helen and Menelaus. Footnote 991, Gorge ver. 700. She was the daughter of Altnia and sister of Meleager. She married Andreman. Footnote 992, Podalirius, ver. 735. The brother of Machion, see the Tristia, Book 5, L. Roman 13, 132. Footnote 994, Automedon, ver. 738, the son of Diores, he was the charioteer of Achilles. Footnote 995, upon his spoil ver. 744, it was the custom to write inscriptions on the spoil. See the notes to the Fasti, Book 2, 1663. Footnotes of Book the Third. Footnote 1001, Penthesilea, ver. 2 see the 21st Epistle, 1.118 and the note. Footnote 1002, Dione ver. 3 see the Fasti, Book 2 1461 and the note. Footnote 1003, son of Atreus ver. 11. Helen was unfaithful to Menelaus while Clytemnestra killed Agamemnon. Footnote 1004, son of Oclus, ver. 13 see the Metamorphoses, Book 8, 1317 in the note. Footnote 1005, from Philace, ver. 17, see the Epistle of Laodamia to Protesilaus. Footnote 1006, son of Pheres, ver. 19, see the Pontic Epistles, Book 3, L. IL 106 and the note. Footnote 1007, and in place of ver. 20, see the 111th line of the same elegy and the note, also the Tristia, Book 5, L. Roman 14, 138. Footnote 1008, my Skipher, 26. Simba, see the Amares, Book 3, L. Roman 6, 14 and the note. Footnote 1009, another bride ver. 34. Jason deserted Medea for Creusa. Footnote 1010, 9 journeys ver. 37, see the Epistle of Phillies to Demophoon. Footnote 1011, 2 treatises ver. 47, his former books on the art of love. Footnote 1012, who before had uttered ver. 49. He alludes to the poet Stesichorus, on whose lips a nightingale was said to have perched and sung when he was a child. Pliny relates that he wrote a poem inveighing bitterly against Helen, in which he called her the firebrand of Troy, on which he was visited with blindness by her brothers, Castor and Pollux, and did not recover his sight till he had recanted in his Palinodia, which he composed in her praise. Suidas says that Stesichorus composed 36 books of poems. Helen was born at Therapne, a town of Laconia. Footnote 1013, your own privileges ver. 58. Sua seems to mean the privileges sanctioned and conceded by the law, probably to those females who were in the number of the professi. Footnote 1014, no door ver. 71. So Horace says in his address to Lydia, Book 1. Ode I 25. Less frequently do the wanton youths shake your joined windows with many a blow, and no longer deprive thee of sleep, and the door adheres to its threshold. Footnote 1015, bestrewed with roses ver. 72. See line 528. In the last book, Lucretius speaks of the admirers of damsels anointing their doors with ointment made of sweet marjoram. Footnote 1016, Hermione ver. 86. According to Hesiod, Venus was the mother of 3 children by Mars, of whom Hermione was one. Footnote 1017, may take up again ver. 96. This is not the proper translation of the passage, but the real meaning cannot be presented with a due regard to decorum. Footnote 1018, I begin with dress ver. 101. He plays upon the different meanings of the word cultus, which means either dress or cultivation, according as it is applied to persons or land. Footnote 1019, a great part ver. 104. This is a more ungallant remark than we should have expected Ovid to make. Footnote 1020, of Phoebus ver. 119. He alludes to the temple of Apollo on the Palatine Hill where Augustus and Tiberius resided. Footnote 1021, and choice shells ver. 124. He alludes to pearls which grow in the shell of the pearl oyster and are found in the Persian Gulf and the Indian Ocean. Footnote 1022, by the moles ver. 126. He alludes to the stupendous moles which the Romans fabricated as breakwaters at their various bathing places on the coast of Italy. See the Odes of Horace, Book 3, Ode 1. Footnote 1023, round features ver. 139. See the Pontic Epistles, Book 3 Ep. Roman 3, 115 and the note. Footnote 1024, figure of the tortoise ver. 147. Salmasius thinks that the gallerus, or wig of false hair, is alluded to in this passage. Others think that a coif or fillet of network is alluded to. He probably means a mode of dressing the hair in the shape of a lyre, with horns on each side projecting outwards. Mercury, the inventor of the lyre, was born on Mount Cyllene in Arcadia. Footnote 1025, the waves ver. 148. Juvenal mentions a mode of dressing the hair to a great height by rows of false curls. Footnote 1026, the herbs from Germany ver. 163. He alludes probably to herbs brought from Germany, which were burnt for the purpose of making a soap used in turning the hair of a blonde color. See the Amores, Book 1, L, Roman 14, 1 and the note. Footnote 1028, the eyes of Hercules ver. 168. He means that the wig makers' shops were in the neighborhood of the temple of Hercules Musagetes in the Flaminian Circus. See the 6th book of the Fasti, 1801. Footnote 1029, gold flounces ver. 169. Segmenta are probably broad flounces to the dresses inlaid with plates of gold or gold threads embroidered on them. Footnote 1030, on one's person ver. 127, like our expression, to carry a fortune on one's back. Footnote 1031, that art said ver. 175. He refers to the color of the ram with the golden fleece that bore Hell and Phrixus over the Hellespont. Footnote 1032, resembles the waves ver. 177. He evidently alluded to dresses which resemble the surface of the waves and which we term watered, and which the Romans called undulati, from unda, a wave. Varro makes mention of undulati tagi. Some commentators, however, fancy that he alludes here to color, meaning glaucous, or sea green, which Lucretius also calls thalassinis. Footnote 1033, amaryllis ver. 183. See the last book, 267 and the note. Footnote 1034, and wax ver. 184. Plautus mentions the carinarii who dyed garments of a waxen or yellow color. Footnote 1035, seriphos ver. 192. See the Metamorphoses, Book 5 242 and the note. Footnote 1036, shocking goat ver. 193. See the note to 522 of the first book. Footnote 1037, application of wax ver. 199. Wax is certainly used as a cosmetic, but creta seems to be a preferable reading, as chalk in a powdered state was much used for adding to the fairness of the complexion. Ovid would hardly recommend a cosmetic of so highly injurious a tendency as melted wax. Footnote 1038, the eyebrows ver. 201. We learn from Juvenal that the color of them was heightened by punctures with a needle being filled with soot. Footnote 1039, and the little patch ver. 202. Alluda means skin made soft by means of alum. It is difficult to discover what it means here, whether a patch made of a substance like gold beater's skin, somewhat similar to those used in the days of the Spectator, or a liquid cosmetic such as Pliny calls calibulpharum, an aid to the eyebrows. He seems to use the word cinceras in its primitive sense, without wax, which recommendation certainly would contradict the common reading, ciera, in the 199th line. Footnote 1040, to mark the eyes ver. 203. To heighten the color of the eyelashes, ashes and probably charcoal were used by the Roman women. Saffron also was used. A black paint made of pulverized antimony is used by the women in the East at the present day to paint their eyebrows black. It is called cerme and was also used at ancient Rome. Cydnus was a river of Cilicia. Footnote 1041, a little treatise ver. 205. He alludes to his book on the care of the complexion, of which a fragment remains. Footnote 1042, of the sesipum ver. 213. The filthy cosmetic called sesipum was prepared from the wool of those parts of the body where the sheep perspired most. It was much used for embellishing the complexion. Pliny mentions the sheep of Athens as producing the best. It had a strong rank smell. The red color, which was used by the Roman ladies for giving a bloom to the skin, was prepared from a moss called fucus, from which, in time, all kinds of paint received the name of fucus. Footnote 1043, of the deer ver. 215. Pliny speaks highly of the virtues of stag's marrow. It probably occupied much the same position in estimation that bear's grease does at the present day. Footnote 1044, Myron ver. 219. There were two sculptors of this name, one a native of Lycia, the other of Eleuthera. Footnote 1045, beautiful statue ver. 223. He alludes to that of Venus Anadyomene, or rising from the sea, which was made by Praxiteles and was often copied by the sculptors of Greece and Rome. Footnote 1046, pierces her arms ver 240, see a similar passage in the Amores, Book 1, L. Roman 14, 116. Footnote 1047, toilet in the temple ver. 244. He tells those who have not fine heads of hair to be as careful in admitting any men to see their toilet as the devotees of Bona Dea were to keep away all males from her solemnities. Footnote 1048, Sidonian fair ver. 252. Europa was a Phoenician by birth. Footnote 1049, with the clothes ver. 226. See the Amores, Book 1, L. Roman 4, 1.48 and the note. Footnote 1050, with purple stripes. Ver. 269 commentators are at a loss to know what tingerviages means, some suggest, to wear garments with red vergi, or stripes, while others think that it means to tint the skin with fine lines of a purple color. It is thought by some that vermilion is here alluded to, while others suppose that the juice of the red flowers, or berries of the vaccinium, is meant. Footnote 1051, the Pharian fish ver. 270. The intestines and dung of the crocodile, the Pharian or Egyptian fish, are here referred to. We learn from Pliny that these substances were used by the females at Rome as a cosmetic, to add to the fairness of the complexion and to take away freckles from the skin. Footnote 1052, small pads are suitable ver. 273 anoctides, or anoctrides. The correct reading is doubtful, were pads or stuffings of flock used in cases of high shoulders or prominent shoulder blades. Footnote 1053, and let the girth ver. 274. He alludes to the strophium, which distantly resembled the stays of the present day, and was a girdle or belt worn by women round the breast and over the interior tunic or chemise. From an epigram of Martial, it seems to have been usually made of leather. Becker thinks that there was a difference between the fascia and the strophium. Footnote 1054, at a distance ver. 278, one of the very wisest of his suggestions. Footnote 1055, Umbrian, ver. 303. The Umbrians were a people of the Marsi in the north of Italy. They were noted for their courage and the rusticity of their manners. Footnote 1056, the son of Sisyphus ver. 313. He here alludes to a scandalous story among the ancients that Ulysses was the son of Anticlea, by Sisyphus the robber who had carried her off, and not by Laertes her husband. Footnote 1057, the wax ver. 314. By the advice of Circe, Ulysses filled the ears of his companions with melted wax, that they might not hear the songs of the sirens. Footnote 1058, the measures of the Nile ver. 318. These airs were sung by Egyptian girls with voluptuous attitudes and were much esteemed by the dissolute Romans. These Egyptian singers were, no doubt, the forerunners of the Almi of Egypt at the present day. The Nautch girls and Bayadiers of the East Indies are a kindred race. Footnote 1059, plectrum ver. 319. See the Metamorphoses, Book 2 1, 601 and the note, also the Epistle of Brises, 118 and the note. Footnote 1060, thy mother ver. 323. Amphion and Zethus were the sons of Jupiter and Antiope. Being carried off by her uncle Lycus, Antiope was entrusted to his wife Dirce. When her sons grew up, they fastened Dirce to wild oxen, by which she was tomb to pieces. Amphion was said to have built the walls of Thebes by the sound of his lyre. Footnote 1062, the festive psaltery ver. 327. Suidas tells us that Nalium, or Nablium, was a name of the psaltery. Josephus says that it had 12 strings. Strabo remarks that the name was of foreign origin. Footnote 1063, Callimachus ver. 329. See the Amores, Book 2, L. Roman 4 1, 19, and the Pontic Epistles, Book 4, Ep. Roman 16, 132, and the notes of the passages. Footnote 1064, Poet of Kos ver. 330, the poet Phaltas. He flourished in the time of Philip and Alexander the Great. Anacreon was a lyric poet of Teos and a great admirer of the juice of the grape. Footnote 1065, or him through whom ver. 332. Some think that he means Menander, from whom Terence borrowed many of his scenes. He probably alludes to the Phormio of Terence, where the old men, Cremes and Demipho, are deceived by Geta, the cunning slave. See the Tristia, Book 2, 359 and 69. Footnote 1066, Propertius, ver. 333. See the Tristia, Book 2, 465 and the note. Footnote 1068, Varro, ver. 335. See the Pontic Epistles, Book 4, Ep. Roman 16, 121 and the Amores, Book 1, L. Roman 15, 121 and the notes to the passages. Footnote 1069, Lofty Rome, ver. 338. He refers here to the Aeneid of Virgil. Footnote 1071, Composition, ver. 346. He takes to himself the credit of being the inventor of epistolary composition. Footnote 1072, Masters of Posture, ver. 351. These persons, who were also called ludii, or histolones, required great suppleness of the sides for the purpose of aptly assuming expressive attitudes, for which reason he calls them artifices lateris. See the first book, 112, and the Tristia, Book 2, 497 and the note. Footnote 1073, which she must call for, ver. 356. Probably at the game of duodecim seripta, or 12 points, like our backgammon, sets of 3 tesserae, or dice, were used for throwing. He recommends her to learn the game and to know on what points to enter when taken up and what throws to call for. See the last book, 203, and the Tristia, Book 2, 473 and the note. Footnote 1074, the pieces, ver. 357. See the note to 207 in the last book. Footnote 1075, the warrior, to ver. 359. He alludes to one of the principal pieces, whose fate depends upon another. Footnote 1076, let the smooth balls, ver. 361. He seems to allude here to a game played by putting marbles, which seems to be the meaning of pilly leaves, smooth balls, into a net with the month open, and then taking them out one by one without moving any of the others. Footnote 1077, kind of game, ver. 363. These two lines do not seem to be connected with the game mentioned in 1365, but rather to refer to that mentioned in 1355. Footnote 1078, a little table receives, ver. 365. This game is mentioned in the Tristia, Book 2, 481. It seems to resemble the simple game played by schoolboys on the slate and known among them as tit-tat-too. Footnote 1079, no trusting, ver. 377, on account of the continued run of bad luck. Footnote 1080, flying ball, ver. 380. See the Tristia, Book 2, 485-6 and the note. Footnote 1081, the Virgin, ver. 385. This was near the Campus Martius. See the Fasti, Book 1, 464, and the Pontic Epistles, Book 1, Ep. Roman 8, 138 and the note. Footnote 1082, Etrurian, ver. 386. The Tiber flowed through ancient Etruria. Footnote 1083, the Virgin, ver. 388. He alludes to the heat while the sun is passing through the constellation Virgo. Footnote 1084, Paritonium, ver. 390. See the Amores, Book 2, L. Roman 13, 1-7 and the note. He alludes to the victory of Augustus over Antony and Cleopatra at Actium, on which the conqueror built the temple of Apollo on the Palatine Hill. Footnote 1085, the suitor and the wife, ver. 391. Livia, the wife, and Octavia, the sister of Augustus, are referred to. Footnote 1086, his son-in-law, ver. 392. The allusion is to M. Agrippa, the husband of Julia, the daughter of Augustus. After the defeat of the younger Pompey, Augustus presented him with a naval crown. A portico built by Augustus was called by his name. Footnote 1087, Memphian heifer, ver. 393. See the Amores, Book 1, L. Roman 8, 174. Footnote 1088, frequent the 3 theaters, ver. 394. He probably alludes to the theaters of Pompey, Balbus, and Marcellus, as they are mentioned by Suetonius as the Trina Theatra. Footnote 1089, glowing wheels, ver. 396. See the Amores, Book 3, L Roman 2. Footnote 1090, Thamyras, ver. 399. He was a Thracian poet who challenged the muses to sing and, according to Homer, was punished with madness. Diodorus Siculus says that he lost his voice, while the Roman poets state that he lost his sight. Amebius was a famous lute player of Athens. Footnote 1091, of Cosver, 401 see the Pontic Epistles, Book 4, Ep. I. 129. Footnote 1092, poets were ver. 405. Euripides was the guest of Archelaus, king of Macedonia, Anacreon of Polycrates, king of Samos, and Pindar and Bacchylides of Hiero, king of Sicily. Footnote 1093, placed near to the ver. 410. According to some accounts, the ashes of Aeneas were deposited in the tomb of the Scipios by the older of his friend Scipio Africanus. Footnote 1094, its own Priam ver. 440. Priam and Antenor advised that Helen should be restored to Menelaus. Footnote 1095, liquid nard ver. 443. There were two kinds of nard, the foliated and the spike nard. It was much esteemed as a perfume by the Romans. Footnote 1096, narrow belt ver. 444. He probably means a girdle that fitted tightly and caused the toga to set in many creases. See the notes to the Fasti, Book 5, 1675. Footnote 1097, and many a ring ver. 446, altar at altar, literally one and another. Footnote 1098, some thief ver. 447. Among its other refinements, Rome seems to have had its swell mob. Footnote 1099, thou, Venus ver. 451. This temple is referred to in the first book, 180-187. Its vicinity was much frequented by courtesans. Footnote 1101, you, ye goddesses ver. 452. He probably alludes to the nymphs whose statues were near the Appian aqueduct, mentioned in the 81st une of the first book. The Delphin editor absolutely thinks that the professi, or courtesans, are themselves alluded to as the Appiades D. Footnote 1103, of Inachus ver. 464. Isis or 2, Seo the Metamorphoses BK, I. Footnote 1104, to deceive your husbands ver. 484. It is not improbable that viros here means merely keepers and not husbands, especially as he alludes to their being without the privilege of the vita, which the matrons wore. Footnote 1105, two hands ver. 496. He means that the writing of the lover must be quite erased before she pens her answer on the same tablets. Footnote 1106, hence avant, ver. 505. See the Fasti, Book 6, 1696, laying aside his foils ver. 515. The rudes was a stick which soldiers and persons exercising used in mimic combat, probably like our foil or single stick. Footnote 1107, with Tecmessa, ver. 517. She was taken captive by Ajax and probably had good reason to be sorrowful. Footnote 1108, the twig of vine ver. 527. He alludes to the centurions who had the power of inflicting corporal punishment, from which circumstance their badge of office was a vine sapling. Footnote 1109, Nemesis ver. 536. Nemesis was the mistress of Tibullus. See the Amores, Book 3, L. Roman 9. Cynthia was the mistress of Propertius and Lycoris of Gallus. Footnote 1110, shut your door ver. 587. He addresses the husband, whom he supposes to be wearied with satiety. Footnote 1111, then even Ties ver. 604. Ties seems to have been a common name with the courtesans of ancient times. Terence, in his Eunuchus, introduces one of that name, who is pretty much of the free and unrestrained character here depicted. Footnote 1112, lictor's rod ver. 615. This conferred freedom on the slave who was touched with it. See the Fasti, Book 6, 1676, and the note lie means that freeborn women are worthy to become wives, but libertini, or freed women, are only fit to become professi, or courtesans, when they may sin with impunity, so far as the laws are concerned. Footnote 1113, broad girth ver. 622. This seems to be the kind of belt mentioned in line 274. Footnote 1114, stalk of wetted flax ver. 629. According to the common reading, this will mean that the letter is to be written on blank paper with a stalk of wetted flax, which writing will afterwards appear when a black substance is thrown upon it. Heinsius insists that the passage is corrupt and suggests that alumine nitre is the correct reading, in which case it would mean that alum water is to be used instead of ink. Vesius tells us that alum water, mixed with the juice of the plant, Thymalum, was used for the purposes of secret correspondence. Footnote 1115, Good Goddess Ver. 637. The debauched Clodius was detected as being present at these rites in a female dress. Footnote 1116, The false key, too, tells Ver. 643. He plays upon the double meaning of the words adultera clavis, which properly signifies a false key. Footnote 1117, Even though Ver. 646. Even though you should have to go to the expense of providing the rich wines of Spain for the purpose. Footnote 1118, Even she Ver. 663. He alludes to the accommodating lady mentioned in line 641. Footnote 1119, Has she filled Ver. 666. See his address to Sypassus in the Amores, Book 2, L. Roman 8. Footnote 1120, Lemnian Dames Ver. 672. See the introduction to the epistle from Hypsipyle to Jason. Footnote 1121, Cephaltes, Ver. 695. This story is also related in the 7th book of the Metamorphoses. Footnote 1122, the Quinces Ver. 705. These are called Cydonia, from Sidon, city of Crete. Footnote 1123, Selenian god Ver. 725. Cephalus was said to be the son of Mercury, but according to one account, which is followed by Ovid in the Metamorphoses, Deionius was his father. Footnote 1124, her breath Ver. 746. See the corresponding passage in the Metamorphoses, Book 7, 1861. It was the custom for the nearest relative to catch the breath of the dying person in the mouth. Footnote 1125, with your fingers Ver. 755. Perhaps he means in moderato quantities at a time and not in whole handfuls. See the note to the first book, 1577. Footnote 1126, and do not first Ver. 757. He seems to IRS two precepts here. First, they are not to eat so much at home as to take away all appetite at the banquet, as that would savor of affectation and be an act of rudeness to the host. On the other hand, he warns them not to stuff as long as they are able, but rather to leave off with an appetite. The passage, however, is hopelessly corrupt and is capable of other interpretations. Footnote 1127, Perform their duty Ver. 764. Constent, literally, will stand together. Footnote 1128, The swans Ver. 899. He also alludes to them in the Metamorphoses as drawing the car of Venus, though that office was more generally assigned by the poets to doves. End of Project Gutenberg's Ars Amatoria, or The Art of Love by Ovid.